Well, there goes the Daverhood. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. We are live. I think the whole world now is doing what we've been doing for the past 2.5 years. Like, we figured out how to do a Facebook live stream, and that's how we've been doing the Dave's Gone By show, which is essentially a radio program. And it's been great. We've added the video component to it. And now it's like the whole rest of the world. Nobody's watching me because everybody now has their own video podcasts, and everybody else is going on Zoom, and everybody else is doing exactly what we've been doing in the Daverhood for the past 2.5, almost 3 years now, but not what we've been doing for 17.5 years, broadcasting, radio casting, audio casting. Is it not coming up? It says we're live on Facebook. Reload your page.
I know it.
Not sure, because it says we're live on Facebook. Make sure that you're on Miracle of Long John's page, all of you, and tell your friends, tell your family, tell your loved ones and enemies that Dave's Gone By is live on this Saturday morning, May 2nd, 2020. And we're calling this episode Pearl of Wisdom, because our guest is going to be Don, my mistake, Donato, which is really only to his friends and closest. So it's Don.
But it says on the thing.
He has a couple of different Facebook pages. One is for Donato, and the other is for Don. That's what I call him.
I call him Dr. Pearl.
He wouldn't be.
Professor.
Yeah, Professor Pearl.
Flamingo dancer.
That's
Writer extraordinaire.
Exceptional writer. That's
activist. No.
Definitely an activist.
That's it.
Now,
yes,
Joyce and I know this person. His name is Don Perl, P-E-R-L. Don Perl. I know him because when I was adjunct teaching at the University of Northern Colorado, I was teaching English classes and stuff. Don was there teaching Spanish. And so I'm walking by the hallway one day because we're in the same floor, language related stuff. And I pass this guy and he's got all this kind of cool rainbowy things in the room. And this magnificently cluttered kind of, I wouldn't say it's a Joe Franklin-esque, but it was all these books and memorabilia and things and stuff about, not really hippiedom, but free speech stuff.
Just super, super cool. Just super righteous tzaddik.
Yeah, and I was like, well, let me go in and talk to. Oh, and also, I noticed on his door was some kind of article about Jews in Eastern Europe, and I'm like, this is.
No, give context. So where we lived in Colorado, the Jewish population was 0.0000000.
So no 0 point. We lived near the shul. Yeah.
0.0000000.
So I couldn't help it, and his door was open because I guess he had office hours, and I was like, "Who is this?"
Because half the people at UNC have offices with no windows.
It's true. It's the only way he could,
get air.
Keep sane in that place.
Trying to respirate, honey.
And it's right in this main floor, but it just really, and I'm like, who is this? And he's this cute little guy who looks like Sam Jaffe, with hair that's like more brilliant than mine.
Last time I'm sharing from my account. Last time I shared from you, that's what I messed up.
Cool. So, and I was like, oh, let me talk to this fella, because I smile and wave, and then I'm like, what's up with this?
Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
You were blessed. Even your roommate, your office mate in English, the two guys that were there, they were lovely. You had really good neighbors. Yeah. In your offices, you had really fun folks.
The university may be a mess, but a lot of the people that I worked with,
really great.
I can't say that about all departments at the university, but I've had good luck with the people that I've dealt with, both in the English department and even in the theater department. But meeting this guy who was not in my department, I was like, who is this fella? And he turned out to be this fascinating, really lovely guy named Don Perl. And he was just there teaching Spanish as an adjunct. Turns out he had taught Spanish for years and years and years in the Colorado school system.
Had he lived anywhere? Like, had he exchanged in Spain or Mexico or Central?
I think he lived out of the country for a while. Rabbi Salme asked him that later. He had this really interesting life. And in later life, he really turned to poetry as an outlet for creativity. Poetry in English, not in Spanish.
Is that why he joined the writing group for the poetry? Okay.
Well, actually, I got him into. I was in this writing group.
You still are.
Technically, yes, I still am, and I love the folks in the writing group. And I was like, well, you're writing this cool poetry. Come join us. Come and every other month you bring in a couple of poems. We go over them. We tell you how awful and terrible they are, and that you should put a gun to your head.
The funniest thing about your writing groups, I've been in writing groups, and I'm with one now.
Yeah.
Your writing group gives the least amount of discussion of the product. I've never seen like we go in, we say, this is what you need to fix. This is great. Think of this. Do this. This. You guys are like crickets. Like you don't really. When I was there, I didn't see a lot of like deep. You don't go in and really get in the meat.
Sometimes we do. Depends. And if there's meat, but most of the time we really like each other's stuff a lot, and we don't see a lot to fix.
There's always something to change. Academia, there's always something you can improve.
Well, this is not academic writing. We're writing short stories, and I'm telling you, there was a woman there in that group, our writers group, who. I mean, you wouldn't want to necessarily change a comma in any of her short stories. They were.
You could always.
I'm telling you. I know.
You could always improve.
So says the professor.
Show Potato went back to school. He'll tell you. Tell them.
Oh, so we have Potato with us. Potato. This is Potato's been homebound owing to COVID. So here's his little knapsack. Let's see what he's got in there. In his UB knapsack. Oh, nothing in the front part. I guess we have to open the zipper. That's what she said. Hold on. He has. Did we do this last week? I always forget.
We did, I think.
But he still has. He's got his papers.
Emergency provisions.
Yeah. And is he asthmatic? Is this instructions on how to? No, he's fine.
Okay.
And then Potato has. What else has he got? He's got his ketchup, of course.
That's emergency provision.
Yeah.
That's his essentials.
And I tell him not to trade it with other students at the uni. And he's got his little handkerchief, just like I used to carry when I was a kid.
I think that's actually toilet paper. He saw your sonnet and he remembered.
Yeah. So yeah, Potato is all ready for. Well, they in New York they've closed the rest of the school year. I don't know why people are getting so head up about it. School closes the end of May?
Yeah, but I think maybe no summer camps. I don't think they're going to.
No, I can't imagine.
David Perl, P-E-A-R-L.
No, P-E-R-L. Like Perl script, like Perl, the computer. Yeah, Perl.
Okay. I said, welcome our excellent guest on Perl at what?
Oh, he's probably coming on about 10:30 to talk to Rabbi Saul Solomon here in. I look like I just woke up, but I've been up since 6 o'clock. I don't know why. Maybe I'll slap some life into my face while I play the intro music for this very program. It's called Dave's Gone By with me, Dave Lefkowitz, my darling and adorable wife, Joyce, and all the cool stuff that we get into every Saturday from 9 until noon or thereabouts.
Come on in. There goes the Daverhood. And there was much rejoicing.
Didn't your meds kick in yet?
We got David Lefkowitz here. He's a Long Island arts guy. He's got his own radio show.
I want you all to really enjoy a wonderful program done by a fine artist.
A glorious thing of unparalleled beauty.
Dave's Gone By. Dave is one of my very favorite broadcasters, so keep on listening to Mr. Dave.
We are in the Daverhood indeed, as I said, live on this Saturday morning, the very first Saturday of May in 2020. I want to welcome all of you, new folks, and we've been getting so many more viewers over the last couple of weeks, maybe because everybody's home. I don't know how many more people would be home on a Saturday. Yeah, I guess on a Saturday morning to late morning, people would go out and shop and do things. And now it's like, I think I'll sit in front of the computer and stare at Dave for 3 hours of culture and humor and talk and all the kind of stuff that we do. So yes, Don Perl, he is the one thing that we didn't talk enough about, aside from him being a former educator and a current poet. He's also very, very much an activist, not the kind of person that you necessarily would think would be putting himself on the front lines of issues. But he did that. He did that involving school testing about a decade or so ago. And much more recently, because he lives in northern Colorado, he's been part of the people who are saying, let's kind of be reasonable about fracking next to human beings and schools and children and buildings. And what are you doing to our groundwater? That sort of thing too. So Don Perl, our guest in the Daverhood in about 80 minutes from now. Plus, what else do we have? Rabbi Saul is going to have a busy day today. Rabbi Saul is also going to be doing one of his rabbinical reflections, one of his mini sermons. And I got news for you. He's angry. And those are the best Rabbi Sauls. I mean, he has fun when he's playful or being kind of philosophical or nostalgic or telling jokes. Those are fun. But he is at his best when he is pissed off. And he is pissed off because he wants to talk about social distancing, which we've all been going through for about 6 weeks. But there's members of his very community who aren't playing by the rules. Who did something this week that flew in the face of what everybody else in America has been trying to do, right? So he's going to be talking about that on his rabbinical reflection later in the show. You don't want to miss that. You also want to catch our Colorado Limerick of the Damned for Palisade, Colorado. This is where I tell a disgusting, tasteless, sick, crude, hopefully funny limerick about a place in Colorado. I've been doing it week after week for a couple of years now. In fact, I started doing these as part of the writing group that I was talking about, where it's a 5-line poem, and each week we go to a different spot in Colorado and make fun of it. Our Colorado Limerick of the Damned, Palisade, today. And then we're going to, with our wretched pun of destiny, we're going to the Boston Pops for a terrible, awful pun, play on words. You don't want to miss, actually, most of these things you do want to miss, you just don't want to miss Don Perl. We'll go inside Broadway for news of the Broadway theater. There isn't anything going on with it except wishful thinking, hoping, plans, 2021, try and open some things. But unfortunately, some folks have died this past week in the Broadway community. So we're going to bid a tribute to them. And our Today Yesterday quiz, where we do a trivia quiz. Today is May 2nd. May 2nd has happened zillions of times over the course of time. Can you, through the clues, figure out what happened on this date in history? Our Today Yesterday quiz. And we'll even have some time for Greeley crimes and old times. A lot of stuff, fun stuff to do in the Daverhood today. So, babe, that's what I called the missus here. Babe, how are you doing?
Good, I'm inviting people.
She's inviting people?
I'm inviting people to direct messaging before Facebook thinks I'm a
Fisher. Yeah, Fisher.
I'm not fishing.
Killed us last week. But how's your week?
It was very good. I had a lot of help from my spouse, who was very helpful and helped me with helpful things.
Yeah.
And helped me do stuff that I couldn't do without help. So
okay.
I feel very happy for the help.
Yes, yes. Can you mention kind of what the help is without mentioning the place?
I cannot. It is secret help.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. That's my kind of special.
Pretend you're MI6 or FBI or CSI or one of those things.
How are you holding up in the sense you go out less than I do? I go shopping a couple times a week.
So
yeah.
The disclaimer is, ever since I was born, my mother would dress me. We'd eat breakfast and we get the hell out of the house. The first thing we did was walk the avenue. We'd go around. We always did stuff. My grandmother, we always went to the park. Like my mother said as a child, I never watched TV. I never was inside. I was always out playing or, my Girl Scouts. We always did activities.
I used to play with Girl Scouts and then I got arrested.
So
but
the interesting thing for me is I've really assimilated to the prison life, that my whole thing is that we live with people who are extremely high risk. So I don't want to infect anyone. That's my
don't give me the blight.
I won't give you the
I'm
blight.
talking about you,
So
Potato.
I don't go out. I basically just go in the yard. My only risk is packages and low risk things that come in or exposure. But I have a lot of work, so it keeps me busy. But I feel like you can adapt because the greater good is not like infecting other people or infecting yourself. So I think you adjust. Yeah, you adjust.
I mean, I'm adjusting fabulously. I kind of, most of the time, I kind of love it.
I have more work now, which I won't discuss, than I did before COVID.
Me, I'm doing a bunch of my work. I'm helping Joyce with some of the stuff that she has to do. I try and nap sometimes in the afternoon.
I've seen you more. Okay, myself and my dearest friends have seen more of you sleeping or on your bed in your plaid underwear on WhatsApp than anyone.
You haven't seen me on my back this much since our honeymoon.
You never were on your back even in your club days, in your Studio 54 dance days.
That's true. That's true.
When you used to pop it and lock it, you weren't on your back.
Except when I tried to do the limbo stick.
The only time you were on your back that much is when you had the hernia and you used to fall out of bed and be on the floor, do cockroach style, bug style.
When I had horrible back pain, not even the psoas thing. That put me on my.
Triggered your point. You were not happy.
But yeah, I'm okay with it. It makes me think about, well, it's funny. I was looking for just kind of dreaming, just thinking of the future. And like, if we come out of this and die from this and we have money and so forth, do we want to move to Manhattan at some point? Or is this a signal that maybe Manhattan isn't the best place to live after a certain age, etc.? Do we want to live near Manhattan in one of the boroughs, or Forest Hills, or Kew Gardens, or Brooklyn, etc.? Or find another little place in Long Island where we can afford a house. And I was like, well, wait a minute. Well, maybe I'm going about this all wrong. We sold our house in Colorado and made a little bit of a profit. That money's kind of sitting there, thank goodness. And I look at it, I've probably talked about this before. I look in the bank and I say, oh, I feel so rich. And then I look at the cost of houses and I'm like, we got nothing. We're screwed. We can't afford a one bedroom in Manhattan on that.
Because New York, I mean, it's astronomical, right? It's like the urban conglomerate.
But then I looked, I think it was just for the hell of it. I was looking at Zillow and poking around West Virginia.
Oh my Lord, no.
What's wrong with West Virginia? No. I'm just wheeling the conversation that way. Want to do the Charleston? No, but here's a deal, man.
We'll get some
for significantly less than $100,000, you can still find a house with land. I don't even want land at this point, but you can get a house. So you buy something.
Yeah, but you run the risk of the state you live in seceding from the union. I mean, that's a risk. And you also run the risk of having a little burning cross on your front lawn every day.
Oh, come on. I mean, it's just barely Mason-Dixon. It is south-ish. But I'm just saying, I'm like, that's an idea. That's a thing, man. People do that. They go, that's why people move to Thailand or Tajikistan or something like that. They make a certain amount of money, they put it away, and they realize, wait a minute, I don't have to buy a house for $800,000 and pay 20 grand a year in taxes. I can buy a house for $40,000 and spend 500 a year in taxes and spend the rest on food and work in a coffee shop part-time and have a life. It's tempting. People are the rich people, of course, vacated Manhattan and the more populous areas of New York State during this COVID thing. They went off on their boats. They went off on their big mansions out on the East End. They went off to other states and other places where they have timeshares or whatever the hell they have, or other country. Well, can't really get on a plane to another country. And they're like, oh, I don't want to be this close to my neighbor, this close to the apartment. They're out and they may not come back. Good riddance. More places to live for the rest of us. But it's that idea of, what do you live in New York for? You live in New York for the atmosphere. I'm talking about like Manhattan, like Chelsea, Midtown, Upper West Side. You live for the restaurants, the stores, and for me, the theater. Well, theater won't be coming back probably in any real way until towards the end of the year, and at least major commercial theater. I think off Broadway will come back before that. But and the restaurants, you can't sit in them and eat. I guess after they lower restrictions, you sort of can. But it's kind of like, why would you want to live there? Why not just get a place?
Because you have access. In New York, you have access to every cuisine, every institution of art and culture. massive amount of brain swell and thinking. If they close my La Pan quotidian, I don't need to go back.
Well, that's the thing. You have access to brains via WhatsApp and Zoom and Skype, and it's not the same. I understand that. And the energy is not going to be the same. But, probably a third of restaurants are going to close.
Do you think there's still tourists going to New York?
Right now?
Yeah.
Only if they've been stuck here.
Did they close the airports, or what's the deal with the flights?
I think flights are like the Long Island Railroad. They're
just essential.
Essential only. This is what freaked me out this week in hearing about the MTA, the subways.
Oh yeah.
They're actually going to clean the trains.
They can't clean it.
They can, of course they're going to clean it and spray down clean trains. What are you talking about?
You can't get every crevice where sputum could be.
Yeah, but if there's sputum in a tiny little crevice, a person is not going to bend down, lick it, and get COVID from it. I mean, it's got to be on
a homeless person.
a thing. Well, but what I'm saying is, this surprised me. They're going to be closed. It doesn't surprise me that they're closing the subways from 1 in the morning until 5 to clean them down. I think if they get into a pattern in the system, maybe they can move that to 3 hours when people start going back to work, and you get people who need to be on the train at 4:30. But do you know how many people are affected by that even now?
How many?
Take a look at it. In other words, closing the trains between all the trains between 1 and 5.
All the night workers, like factories and industry.
I guess essential people.
I don't know. Oh, you mean and that night shifts in hospitals? Probably 1 million.
Well, no, they're saying 10,000 people would be affected.
Well, lovely. Oh, so my friend said in DC they closed down Uber. You can't do Ubers. We still have Uber. So Cuomo's like, you can get an Uber and go on the Uber. Like they're going to pay for essential workers to do Uber.
That's what they're doing. They're trying to figure out ways to bring essential workers and people having jobs to the places they need to be when the subway is not running. I mean, I get it, but I was surprised by that amount. It wouldn't occur to me that 2 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, there'd be still hundreds of people using the subways when, people aren't coming back late from a bar, or they're not coming back from, a game at Madison Square Garden or something like that and going out drinking. Wouldn't occur to me that many people are still using the subway. They said that Long Island Railroad ridership is down about 90.
You could also get killed by the KKK in West Virginia.
You could get with the KKK Rockville Center.
I don't think that you have to look, how realtors put a positive spin on everything. I think you have to really bring a lie detector when you go house hunting. That's what you need. You need that truth serum thing, like that thing from Murdoch. Be like, so has anybody been murdered in this house before? And they, or is there
do you ever have a termite problem?
Someone told me about a mold issue.
Oh man.
Who was telling me this awful story that somebody lived in a house and they had respiratory. They thought they had asthma. They were very ill.
Oh, I remember this.
And you know what it was? It was mold.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Man, well, we toured houses, I think, when we were looking for houses in Colorado and North Dakota, where they had mold problems and abated them. And we're like, no, thank you, because they got flood. And if you don't dry up properly after a flood, you're basically screwed for a long, long time.
Yes.
But I'm just, I don't know. If our friend just emailed, by the way, she's talking about DDT, who has been on this program many years ago. How are things in New Jersey?
It depends. I think I was telling friends yesterday that New York is going to close the primary schools until August, and they were each state. It's so funny, like New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, and DC, and all these places. I'm like, Virginia. I'm like, we're kind of close. Shouldn't we have the same, shouldn't we all be on the same page? So it's very different. I don't understand why neighbors are so different.
Well, I don't understand. I mean, I do get reopening intelligently. And I do get that a small town in Georgia is not going to, I don't know why I said that like Donald Trump, like Georgia, but is not going to need the same kind of provisions and restrictions and protocols that Manhattan
look at Greeley. I mean, Greeley, you say, okay, it's a
because
city.
it's all crammed into a factory.
But so you don't know, like if there's a meatpacking plant in a city or state, that state may have low risk, but there could be an outbreak of it. which could be like the initial person, the first person, and that could run wild if people don't have the distancing.
True.
True.
I mean, but then again, if you're a smart mayor or governor, you look at your town and you say, what do we have in this town? Okay, we got a university, a college, and a big ass meat packing plant. Nobody's talking about a dairy place. Didn't they open a cheese place there too?
Yeah.
Right. So that's what we've got to contain. And then the rest is kind of spread out in horse farms and dairy places.
I think it's a real problem.
Well, it is. But at the same time, again, it's also different from opening things up, as it were, in a town that has one 20-floor apartment complex next to a 34-floor apartment complex next to, the only safe place in New York should be Central Park. That's as long as people.
Using Central Park as a field hospital. It's like that's the least thing.
No, but that was the thing that surprised me most, that Cuomo a month ago closed the beaches. Because that was the one place I figured, a beach is open. If people stay away from each other and wear masks, this is a perfect place for them to get a little fresh air, which is healthier for some folks than staying home day after day.
We should just get MTurk and get people to work on MTurk to teach and like do crowdsourcing for teaching.
I'm sorry, I forgot what
MTurk used to. Besides it, I collected data on MTurk, but MTurk is like if you have work to do, you say, I want you to do this for this amount of money, and people could do it. It's like sourcing. So you could crowdsource or do something on MTurk and have people teach that way.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's a way to do it.
But anyway, we are in, I guess it's now week 7 of America's coming through the COVID crisis, as it were.
6 now.
It's hard because some people started a week earlier than the official shutdown. Some people started, unfortunately, like a week or two later. And then it took Trump and Governor Cuomo to say, let's socially isolate, let's shut things down for a little bit while we figure out what the hell's going on. But anyway, I hope you're well. I want to have some fun with this.
Of course.
What was fun? Well, let's see. We did finally, Joyce and I were always 2 or 3 or 4 weeks late to any cultural event of any note. It's just the way we are. We're busy, we don't want to do other things. And then it's like, okay, let's go see this. So this week, we did binge The Tiger King. We finally saw it. And,
yeah, so that was my friend. So we have a friend who's working actually with the federal government to develop a corona vaccine.
This is true.
And so I love her dearly. She's one of my oldest, definitely one of my oldest friends. And what did she recommend that I do?
Watch Tiger King.
Joe Exotic, yes.
Yes, 7 hours.
Yes.
Plus Joel McHale hosted a post show that we watched last night. It was kind of cool. So do you think he's guilty? Do you think he's not guilty? Joe Exotic,
I think they're all on
convicted
meth. I think they're all on meth.
Yes. Except the ones who said that they weren't on meth, they just looked like it and had bad teeth.
When you lose your teeth and you look like that, I would say that's got to be meth. That's got to be some meth.
Well, wait a minute. My dad lost most of his teeth and
meth. There we go.
Oh, damn. You just got the funniest line of the show right there. Oh, I'm going to send Rabbi Sal home. He's not going to beat that.
That's right. I got funny. That still.
But I don't know. It's amazing how a documentary like that, crazy as it is, you go from liking a person to hating them, to liking them, to hating them, to believing them, to not believing them. It's really well done in that sense. Within 2 minutes, you change your entire mind about a person, whether it's Carol Baskin or Joe Exotic or any of those people who were there. You figure,
well, what it shows you, what I like about this mock-you documentary is nobody's good and nobody's bad. Everybody's just kind of muddied. Everybody's in the dirt, Nobody. There's no hero. There's no villain. There's no.
And everyone's a hypocrite.
Everyone has something. So even the political guy, the campaign manager, is like, he's like, I'm a libertarian. I like guns. I'm gay. Like they're all like, you can't get a handle for me on like what aspect to show personship, what's real. It's very muddled. It's like,
which makes it real interesting and
it's like,
wild.
It's like the Dylan mockumentary. You're like, you look at it, you're like, WTF? Like, what did I just see? And then you're just horrified. Yeah.
But this is supposed to be all real. This isn't like Amish mafia
Really?
that used to, I don't know. That's the thing. What I don't understand is if this guy had this big famous zoo, right, and was on all these TV shows, how come we never heard of him? I mean, this was in the age of the internet and social
maybe
media.
We saw the animals, but we never saw him, you know? Because the one guy, the one who's like, the one guy with all the women, he has multiple wives.
Yeah.
I forget.
Joe
his name, not Bhagwan, but he.
Or Jeff Lowe, maybe.
No, the other one, the one with the white hair and ponytail.
Oh yeah.
He showed a picture of him giving an animal to Jay Leno. So maybe we just didn't know. We looked at the animals. We didn't look at the
that much of no, but we would have noticed Joe Exotic. We was somehow in all my trolling, looking for public access television and finding people like the guy who was actually on our show, who was making movies and trying to teach people how to make movies with his little camera and what was her name? I never got her on the show, but do you remember? Oh, she used to be like Pixie Ann on children's TV, and then she wore this hat, and every week she would get on public access and rant about Cablevision.
Oh, Eudora.
Something like that.
Glendora.
Oh, I wanted to get her so much on the show. I would seek people like that out because you just sit there as anybody would and go, okay, wow. And we get shit public access here in color. We get one show that is a kind of it's a religious oriented program by this woman who does puppets. And also she has a retarded kid that she helps teach to sing. It's fantastic.
Everything is so muddled. We live in a crazy time.
Oh, yeah, we do indeed. Speaking of crazy things, you're watching Dave's Gone By with me, Dave Lefkowitz. I'm the founder and producer of this program called Dave's Gone By that has been around since October of 2002. If you want to hear some of the older, in fact, virtually all of the older programs that we've done, because this is our 744th episode, swear to God. We've saved roughly 740 other ones of these. The first 14 years were audio only. It was a radio show, whether it was on terrestrial radio or on college radio, but they're there. And they're all at davesgoneby.com, DAVESGONEBY.com. And one of the great things about this pandemical isolation time is that I've been going show by show and making sure the links work, because some of them were broken. I don't know why, but a lot of things weren't working when they should have been. And I've been having to go show by show and just fix the link, change that. Now they're working. You should be able to watch any of our episodes in the archive. Some of the interviews, I got to get to them. Those might still have issues, but you can find them elsewhere on the internet because we also have put our shows on YouTube.
The technical term is the interwebs.
Wow. Oh, the interweb is 1030. But if there's an interview you're looking for and it's broken on davesgoneby.com, you can probably find it on YouTube instead. So that's a good rule of thumb. But we're going to be fixing those as well. It just takes a hell of a lot of time and energy, and it's real kind of grunt work that drives me crazy sometimes. But it's important because I love this program. I believe in it. I think it's fun, and I think it gives people a lot of pleasure, and this idea that it will be part of my legacy, that when COVID finally gets me and puts holes in my lungs and other places on me, I'll die, and this program will go on, and people will tune into something I was doing in 2004 and get a big laugh out of it. Or they'll hear an interview and, oh, that's a great interview with that celebrity. That's better than the interview that they did on Leno or Fallon or something like that. That's what I'm doing it for. So check out the archives, davesgoneby.com. Also, we've been putting our more recent shows up on a marvelous website called archive.org. This is a great place. You've probably heard about them. They've been almost in the news now because they're trying to be an archive of so much of 20th century media and even books too. But there's all the, from everything from art to radio shows to old TV shows to and just podcasts. Like if people are giving them the rights to re-air it, it's all there in this repository. And because school children have been home for the past month and a half. They've put together this great books part of the site where these kids can go and download all these public domain classics of world literature, which is fantastic. So I'm really, really proud that Dave's Gone By episodes, the last 4.5 years of them, are up there, and a lot of video. All the interviews are there, and slowly we're going back and putting as many Dave's Gone Bys as we can on archive.org as well. So these are all places to watch and check out this fine program, our Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the stream, with me, Dave Lefkowitz, my wonderful wife, Joyce, and the show that we have for you. So shall we, since we're talking about Greeley and the meat plant that's putting important safety features in operation, wink, wink.
Oh, so somebody posted on Facebook, wearing a mask with your nose sticking out is like wearing a condom with the tip cut off. That's true.
What was up with that?
You were talking about that with the Hasids, I believe.
Yeah. One of the things, when Rabbi Saul does his rabbinical reflection later, he's going to be talking about that Orthodox funeral that they had in Brooklyn this week, with people just coming out on the street, several hundred people breaking the social isolation. I guess is it a law if the mayor says it, if the governor says it? What is it?
I think it is. It's like an ordinance, and if you don't follow it, then you could be arrested.
Yeah, if you don't comply, the police can come and get you. So
would you want to be the police? Like, I wouldn't want to be the police in a crowd of people wearing a mask and trying to arrest people. Well,
no, but unfortunately, it's part of the job. Just like nurses have to get next to people who are crawling with disease, police have to get next to people who are just plain crawling, right? But what was funny was, even not in that video, but seeing in other videos of folks who are walking around, that they've got the masks on, but it's down here. It's like just below the nasal ridge. I'm like, do they not think that mucus doesn't drip and go into the atmosphere? I love the fact that there's a local deli that we use. And the guy's okay, I'm okay. I've been getting their orders for a couple of weeks now. Once or twice a week, I'll go as a treat, and we'll get some chicken soup, and we'll get a pastrami sandwich or something. And the place has been around for years and years and years. It's under new ownership. Really, really like the guy. But I go in there, and and this has been since mid-March, man. He's got the mask. He's wearing the mask, and his face is here. This is honest to God truth. And this is a guy who's giving people food, right? Fresh food that they're going to go home and eat. And he's got the mask, and the mask starts here. It's essentially just covering his chin and everything. And he's looking, and the great thing is he's high up on this counter, and then the customer is over here behind the counter where you've got the glass wall of goodies, of the knishes and the kasha varnishkas, and the hot dogs are over there, right? And so you're here, and he is a big guy. He's towering above you. So not only is he unmasked up until like the chin, but he's looking down on you. So the spittle and the drool and the saliva is, I mean, if there's anything coming out of his face, it's going to go just straight down the people standing by the counter. I love it. But it also makes me think that he's fine. All these people are using the deli, are coming in there to pick up stuff, are fine. Have we overreacted to some extent? Joyce and I kind of differ on this, but I'm not one of these idiot people who are running around these states going, open us up immediately, free rights, free assembly, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, we're in the middle of a horrible pandemical disease. You're just lucky you don't have it. But at the same time, it's that thing of, if you slowly opened everything up, would the spike kill in America 3,000 more people or 30,000 more people? If it's 3,000,
it would wipe out. I mean, I think you can't. I think if you act in an idiotic fashion, it's gonna be bad.
Well, not doing it idiotically, but doing it in a safer way.
Look in the country we live in. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
you have a point. Joyce has a point. It's like, yeah, if we were in like, I don't know, Japan or an orderly place like Japan has probably 5 times the people who pack the subways that we do. And they figured out a way to herd the Japanese, not even like cattle, but literally like sardines. And they're just like, okay, I'm going to work and I'm just going to be like this for 10 minutes while I'm on the train and then go. I don't know why I'm talking like that, but whereas New Yorkers, are like, get my knapsack and get the homeless person off the bench and chaos and misery.
And there's a lot of spitting and sputum going around.
Oh, are you kidding me? If you could see, I try and clean my screen somewhat every couple of weeks on this computer. If you could see the spittle marks on my computer screen, on my Mac here, you'd be like, oh, somebody's gonna have to take this Mac, put it in a body bag, and leave it outside a hospital for to rot in the sun for a week because it's just like, Anywho, we were talking about Greeley, Colorado, where Joyce and I had lived for about 9 years. They've got a newspaper there still for the time being before that goes out of business. Well, no, yeah, actually they were sold. Yeah. They were bought out by this big conglomerate. So maybe they'll figure out a way.
Yeah, you can have meat with or without COVID. I think that's nice. Would you like your meat with
No,
COVID?
it wasn't by Swift. It's not Swift. Swift doesn't own
It's
anything.
JBS. Wasn't it JBS?
No. They were bought out by
it's an Argentinian or Brazilian. I think it's a Brazilian firm, right?
That's the plant. That's the meat plant. Swift sold it to this other concern that has other newspapers that they're going in and firing half the staff and doing things to try and keep the paper alive, for better or worse. Well, for better and worse, it's time for Greeley Crimes and Old Times. La 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 la. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. So in the Greeley Tribune, that fine and fabulous newspaper of which I used to have a sample
You were going to show the New York Times cover that shows the tattoo parlor in Greeley, weren't you?
I don't know where I put that. Did I?
When Trees Attack? I think it's right there.
Well,
right
this is just the
This
Greeley
is When
Tribune.
Trees Attack.
Yeah, this is great. We show this every week. This is a sample issue, a sample front cover of the Greeley Tribune.
Our Fred and Friendy, Fred or Wendy, a Friendy sent that.
Magnificent things I've ever seen.
I love it.
Trees can kill you. This is the front page. I'm not talking of the nature section, of the art section. This is the front page of the Greeley Tribune newspaper. It's genius.
Yeah, that's true.
But the paper does
it should say when unsanitized factory conditions, like what is it? Is it Upton Sinclair or Sinclair?
The Jungle.
Lewis? The Jungle, yeah.
Upton Sinclair, yeah.
Like it's the jungle. It's like God. I can only imagine what they're doing with the production of meat in that factory.
Oh, I don't even want to.
Oh.
Yeah, and Joyce is a vegetarian. She doesn't really care because it doesn't, it won't hit her. I eat everything. I mean, I'll see a dead animal on the road. I'll take a match.
They grow potatoes and beets still too.
And it goes into the soil like that.
Right.
Well, I'm more worried about fracking. We'll talk to Don Perl about that.
Fracking, I wonder if they cease operations because the products are worth nothing. If oil has no value, then why would you?
Yeah, no, they're oil busting right now in Colorado. Well, they had an oil boom.
Oh, I thought you meant they were like it was like cattle busting. Oh, sorry, no. Like, what is that? Like you ride an oil drum? Yeehaw!
No, when we first moved there, because it was still in recession, but one of the things that kept really out of a really bad recession was you had all these people flocking to the oil industry because fracking was starting up. It's what saved the university back then from going into deep debt. Was like, mineral rights. Here, take it. Right. Do whatever you want to the earth. We don't care. So now they got all this oil out of the ground and they can't sell it to anybody. Well, anyway, Greeley, Colorado, and the Greeley Tribune. But one of the good remaining things about the Greeley Tribune is that it has a sense of humor. And there are seriously, it has 2 columns that they do every week that look at the news in an amusing way. One of them is Cop Log. Apparently it is public information what happens in a police station, police department. Phone calls come into the station, and as long as you strip the names out and the identifiers, you can share, this is what's happening in our community. These are the calls that have come in to the Greeley and Weld County Police Department from people needing help. And then they also have a column which might be on hiatus because I don't know if Mike Peters is volunteering to do it, or they're paying columnists now, because they had to put a few people on hiatus during the COVID crunch.
That's true.
But it's called Greeley Old Time. Well, 100 years ago. They go into the newspapers from 1920 and find the cutest, funniest, weirdest things that were printed in the local papers back in the day. So we mix those two columns together for Greeley Crimes and Old Times. Are you ready, dear?
I'm born ready.
She was born ready, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Police responded to a supermarket on 23rd Avenue. What were they responding to? Two women with a baby.
Oh no.
Who were doing shots before going inside. They called someone else to pick them up.
I like it.
Okay, in this day and age, I think, oh, they got shots, great, they got the malaria thing, but no, I think they were just knocking back shots of vodka.
Listen, in this day and age, I think, like, God bless them. They should drink. Like, if I was stuck at home with the baby 24/7, you can't go out, you can't do anything, you have no relief, you can't hand the baby off to like a nanny or granny or grandpa or whatever. You need a shot.
No,
you
make it simple.
Shot.
Make it simple. Don't drink the shot. Feed the shot to the baby.
No.
Baby sleeps for 11 hours, you're good.
No, I think it's better because then you don't care. You'd look at, like, imagine this. Imagine this for 24 hours straight.
I don't have to imagine it. I'm married. I'm going for that one. Oh, thank you very much. A caller on 16th Avenue. Report. Do we have a phone ringing?
I know,
anything?
that's exactly what we used to. I don't know what. Let's do.
Wow, that's an old phone.
Yes.
There we go. A caller on 16th
I
Avenue.
believe that was a fax machine, babe.
Well, I hope you're getting your facts straight.
16th Avenue or 16th Street?
This one was on 16th Avenue. A caller reported suspicious activity after someone knocked on her door trying to sell services to paint her fence.
I have services.
Why would that be weird?
Because she did not have a fence.
She did not have a fence. Yes. That is correct. Yes. Well done. You got it.
Sad.
You're on top of this, babe.
Sometimes you need a fence, you know.
Let's move to old times. You know, Joyce and I have been watching a ton of these Murdoch mysteries from, early 1900s. Let's go to 1920. Two juveniles who finished serving jail terms for bootlegging. Imagine juveniles now.
You know, you got to start young. If you're going to be a good bootlegger, you got to start young.
Now, here's the deal. They said they were applying for jobs in Johnstown after they were released.
Okay.
Because it was cold, Sheriff Hall loaned them each a coat to wear to Johnstown.
Yeah.
However, the boys did not return the coats, and they were later arrested for theft. You think that's a sheriff just trying to? How long do you think he gave them to give the coats back?
I mean, for reals, like, if it's like your granny's diamonds or like his wife's like skillet, but it's a coat.
Yeah. You're talking about setting people up to fail. Not that the legal system ever does that.
I think that's the beginning of stop and frisk. I think that's how they began it in the 1800s. Yeah. Stop and freeze.
Yeah. In a state court case back in the day, the judge declared that a plumber had wasted time smoking on the job and by filling and lighting his pipe several times when he should have been working. When a man is getting paid $11 or $12 per day.
Oh my God, he's a rich man.
For plumbing work, said the judge. He should be doing his smoking during his lunch hour. So the judge reduced the overall plumbing bill by $53.74. That's a huge, if that's the reduction, it was probably working on some kind of commercial building or something, I wonder. Anyway, Well, anyway, let's see. Moving on to more modern times, a caller on 53rd Avenue reported issues. Oh, there's that phone call again. She reported issues with her neighbors
Uh-oh.
After she found what on top of her vehicle?
Probably an animal or doo-doo.
You're close on both counts, but not quite. But you're right about the animal part.
Okay.
You're a little off about the doo-doo part. So found this, and this is the thing that
maybe like a frozen chicken or something. Somebody left groceries?
No. You're still close with the thing. She found this, and I don't understand how this is possible on top of her vehicle. I remember talking about an old car back then. What?
I don't know. A goose?
No. When you go outside, and you don't see bird droppings on your vehicle, and you don't see sap from the trees, I think it's pretty normal to expect to look on your car and see dog vomit.
How does she know it's dog vomit?
Well, we know what dog vomit looks like. It's yellow. It's
but that's vile. It could be people vomit too.
But the thing, well, she probably realizes that she's been fighting with her neighbors over their dog. But how does dog vomit get onto the top of something?
It's very difficult to move vomit.
I mean, it would have to be like a Great Dane or something. Anyway, if you have any ideas, please feel free to message us in the Daverhood. You can message us right here on Facebook or send me an email, davesgoneby@aol.com. If you can figure out how, let's say, a terrier could project its vomit onto the top of a vehicle back in 1920. If you can do a diagram of a Venn, not a Venn thing, but just a
storyboard.
Because physics is involved, and I don't know physics. So how would that happen?
I don't think it was vomit.
You don't think? No.
I don't think it was vomit.
Oh, if only. And by the way, no. Excuse me. This was not 1920. This was like last week that this happened.
It can't be vomit.
You know.
It was probably someone sick with COVID trying to get home and barfed on her car.
It's I don't know. Somebody's driving like a Trabant, and the vomit actually makes it look better. Anywho,
better than her bicycle.
Oh boy, we have right now.
Yeah.
It's an ew alert, ladies and gentlemen. Are you ready for an ew alert? This is the kind of story that will make you go, ew. A caller on 12th Avenue Court reported little girls next door were jumping on a trampoline and looking over a privacy fence at him sunbathing on the patio. The caller later called back to say the house next to him was going to burn before hanging up. Yeah. There's just something a little ooky about that whole story.
That's a problem.
Both parts of it. Yeah.
That's a problem in several ways.
It certainly is. Police responded to a convenience store on 8th Avenue for a woman who needed help getting to a shelter. Nothing, a lot of women need
that's a good job for the police, right?
Yeah, you used to work or volunteer at a shelter. Used to do something. The woman said she owned a house on 31st Avenue worth $31 trillion because it is the center point of the United States.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's the house we should have gotten.
Wait, hold on.
Well, do you think if they built a house on that Four Corners area where the 4 states meet, that would be worth a whole,
honey,
what?
I really don't, I don't know.
Always wanted to go to that. Always wanted to put can they do that? Can you go and be on all fours with one hand in one state, one hand in another state, one leg in the third?
I think there's one state where you can do that.
Yeah.
I don't think you'd want to.
Why wouldn't you want to do that?
You'd increase your COVID opportunities times 4.
I think that'd be the coolest
thing. It'd be like Twister. Your left foot couldn't be in Virginia. Your right foot couldn't be there. I mean, it would be messy.
Yeah. No, I actually got my middle finger in Virginia, and she smacked me. But
I'm obsessed with Virginia.
I don't know what the hell that means. Well, it's also because I had my whole fist in Carolina. But thank you. An Eton man was convicted of public drunkenness, and he's going to serve 4 months in jail. He told the judge he couldn't afford whiskey.
Oh, God.
So
what did he drink?
He drank.
Yeah. Turpentine?
Horse
pee-pee?
and not dog vomit. No. What did he drink? He couldn't afford booze. What's almost as good as booze? Oh, I think you know.
Oh, near beer.
No. What's up better than a nice smooth glass of Rexall hair tonic?
Oh God.
Yeah.
That's what they said Kitty Dukakis did.
Well,
someone had to explain that to me. Like when you need alcohol and people can't get it through like traditional alcohol, they use other products that they believe. I never understood that. Mom had to explain why people would. I'm like, why would you do it?
He said he was drinking 2 quarts of the hair tonic per day.
Survive?
I don't. Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah. Probably like a mullet gullet or something like that. I know, like 2 quarts. I can't even drink 2 quarts of iced tea a day, and I've tried.
I know. No, I know. That's weird. Well, I guess you gotta get what you get when you get it.
Oh, let me just oh, good. We have our guest kind of early-ish in the waiting room.
Oh.
Oh no, we can. Well, why is it showing the waiting room? I don't. We're not ready for. Should we not see them?
You didn't put the waiting room feature in, yeah?
Oh dear.
Don now.
What name do you want to use, Don?
Don.
For a second. I'm very sorry about this, but I accidentally stopped the video. Forgive me. I just restarted again. Hold on.
You can't put him in the waiting room.
I'm going to mute you guys, but can I gotta get rid of their picture for a moment.
Just hit speaker view.
Guys, I know you can hear me. I hope you can hear me. I'm going to remove you from the waiting room. Okay.
Just do speaker view.
What was speaker? Oh, you have that? Okay. Oh,
undo. It should say in a gallery view. You should be able to get speaker view.
Speaker view. Oh, okay. So if they're muted,
but no, I think
they're showing just.
Talk to Don now.
Well, no, I'm not ready, and it's not ready. Hold on.
You can't do anything. You didn't enable the waiting room.
Okay, my fault. Here we go. Well then, guys, I'm gonna unmute. We're a little early here, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna start at 10 with Rabbi Saul Solomon talking to this guy. Are you dressed? Are you ready? This was supposed to go to. Let me unmute you if I can. Hold on. Okay. For no particular good reason, you're already on live. But are you ready to go, or do you need a little time? Because we're going to bring the rabbi in to talk to you.
But I'm ready whenever you are, Rabbi.
Wonderful. Well, okay. Let me play something, and let me get back to gallery view. You just hang there and smile. And we'll bring Rabbi Saul Solomon in to talk to our very special guest that you're already looking at, Don Perl. I'm just going to play a little music to get this all going. What a mess. Hold on. What was I going to play? Oh, I know. The person that is going to be talking to Rabbi Saul Solomon taught Spanish for almost 2 decades in junior high school, and then also taught Spanish as an adjunct at UNC. What better music to play for the arrival of Don Perl in the Daverhood?
A cucaracha ya no puede caminar. Pausa. Here he comes. Here's the rabbi.
Oh! Shalom, my friends. Oh, shalom, my enemies. This is your old pal, Rabbi Saul Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck. And I just rolled out of bed. It was so early. We're supposed to be talking to this man a little bit later, but I couldn't wait. I had to get him on the program immediately because I am so delighted and excited to be talking to Don Perl. Let me tell you a little bit about Don Perl. He is a beloved Spanish and social studies teacher in Colorado. He lectured at the University of Northern Colorado. He holds a bachelor's from Rochester University, a Juris Doctor. were you a lawyer? Is that the deal? Do you have a law degree?
I do.
Oh my God, he's a lawyer, he's a legal guy. And he even got another master's there for teaching Spanish, which he got to do at the university. He is now using his retirement years to be an activist and to write poetry. And a former student wrote this wrote about his life story for an honors anthropology assignment. And she called this A Voice for the Voiceless, the History of Donato Perl. And so you are as sweet as a donut, Don. Welcome and shalom to the Daverhood. Hello, how you doing?
Shalom to you on this Sabbath. I'm fine. How are you doing? So nice to see you, hear your voice. I really like your braids.
Oh, aren't they lovely? They've been growing out because there's no barber shop around here.
You're well cultivated. They're well cultivated.
And you're looking good too. You're looking fabulous. How? I'm taking my styling tips from Frida Kahlo's eyelashes here. So I figured this is just like that. She didn't trim them. Why should I? But okay, here's my question for many questions. First of all, you're Jewish.
Correct.
What the hell brought you to Colorado in the first place?
Oh, what brought me to Colorado?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, a number of things brought me to Colorado. First of all, there was a job in the 60s as a bank examiner, and I had been working in the East as a bank examiner, and I applied for this transfer to Colorado. That was 1969.
69, a wonderful.
Well before your time. And so that.
Not really, but okay. It's been a while since I've, anyway, Continue.
Continue?
Yes, please continue. Don't mind me.
So, all right. So, and I met my first wife in Colorado, and on a whim, I went and practiced law back in New York. And
so you were a New York Jew lawyer?
Correct.
What kind of law were you doing?
I did a little bit of everything, and I was just a novice at just about everything.
Well, contracts? Did you defend criminals? Did you prosecute? What kind of work were you doing?
I did a little bit of everything. So, for example, a woman came to me. The city wanted to build a water line under her property, and she asked me to defend herself. She didn't have any money, so I took her pay in carrots. In carrots.
How many carrots could she have possibly given you?
A couple of bushels. There's one reason why I think I was fired, because I wasn't bringing any money into the firm.
No, that's wrong kind of carrots if you're in the New York Diamond District. I'll tell you that.
Somebody else came, had a motorcycle, had a ticket. He was on a motorcycle, and he was speeding, and so I defended him. We went to court, and
turn off the goddamn cell phone.
I turned it off.
What's the matter with you? Yes. Continue. So this person with a motorcycle comes in.
Yes, he has a ticket. He needs some defense. He was speeding. And so I went to court with him. The court was about 15 miles west of Endicott, New York, which is where I was practicing. And he was found guilty, but I defended him, and he paid me in marijuana. Another reason I think why I was fired.
Wow. Let me ask you, I mean, it's many years after, and now it's legal half the time.
Many years ago.
Did you distribute it, or did you consume it, or half the one?
I consumed it.
Wow.
I consumed it. I distributed some of it to my friends. I thought it was pretty fair payment since he was found guilty anyway.
Well, yeah, that's it. So did you think you were any good as a lawyer? Is there a reason that you gave it up and found other things to do?
I was a novice. Let's say there were possibilities there, but I never really learned to navigate the system. I always thought justice should have both eyes closed, but she never has both eyes closed. She has one eye open, and I always had a heart for the dispossessed.
So is the system stacked against the common person, certainly the poor person, the socially not climbed person, if you will?
Yeah, someone without means is definitely behind the eight ball.
I have a question from the gallery. Ask about the staircase. What staircase? What do you do about? Yeah. Do you watch Netflix? I don't know what the hell.
I have not watched it. No.
Yeah, something called The Staircase. I don't even know what the hell it is.
I think I'm culturally deprived here in this area.
I mean, he was a barrister, not a banister. I'm sorry. Okay, continuing. So, that's terrible.
That was rich.
You stopped doing law, and then what you were mentioning, what you were doing after that?
Well, frankly, I was fired from my job. I wasn't bringing any money into the firm.
Yeah.
So,
and then what did you do? How did you go on, progress with your life? You had the wife. What were you doing?
yeah. Well, on a whim, I took a course. Okay, this was in New York State, so I took a course in Spanish, SUNY Binghamton, and was entranced by the language. So I followed suit, and the two of us, we sold our possessions, and we bought a one-way ticket to Guadalajara, Mexico, where I entered a school to learn Spanish, and we lived with a family in Guadalajara.
How long? For how long did you do this?
2 years.
What was that like? Did you love living in Mexico? Was it?
I did. I felt like I was home. Yeah. Life was full of music, full of color. The streets were musical and colorful. The city went to sleep at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and didn't wake up until 5.
Oh, I love that. That's my kind of life. Yeah.
But I got a job teaching English in Guadalajara. I was given a pseudonym, and so there was a bank account in my name with my pseudonym, which was Daniel Torres Altamirano. So I lived that name for 2 years.
4K. Why did you? Yeah, no. Why did you need a pseudonym?
Well,
I mean, more marijuana there.
I was an alien. I was an alien, so I was given a pseudonym by.
Oh, so long as you weren't legally living there, sort of. Is that
well, illegally, we had a tourist visa only. Yeah.
I mean, so you overstayed and you just stayed.
Absolutely.
But with a new name, you could do what you. Okay. Wow. So why did you leave? Why did you come back to the States?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think if I had to do it over again, I would have stayed, but I did miss the States, and my wife, she was missed by her family. So weighing the pros and cons, we left. It was a great experience, but never went back. But I took that, it was life-changing, but I took that experience of learning the language and the culture and the warmth of the people and the music. I took that back with me. And so that became a part of me. And thus, I got a master's in Spanish also. So I was teaching English and teaching Spanish in the junior high. Am I going to go on with this?
Colorado. You didn't go back to New York. You moved to.
No, I went back to Colorado.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I got a teaching certificate. I went back to school, got a teaching certificate. In the meantime, a program opened in downtown Denver called Oasis of Chandala. Now that program was for the dispossessed. The Chandalas in India are the lowest in the caste system. So this was a program designed, really, it was during the Carter administration where there was some startup money. And so this program was designed specifically to offer a helping hand to the dispossessed, the unrepresented. And I worked at that program. I was the assistant director and I also ran the kitchen. So yeah. So I would teach GED classes in the kitchen.
Was it an ashram kind of a thing, or?
Well, it was a non-residential program.
Okay.
So it wasn't exactly that, but it was
supposed to be. So people just came in for snacks. It was a nashram.
It's a nashram.
I do that sort of thing. I'm sorry.
That was really quick of you.
That was quick, yeah. Stupid, but quick. But okay. So I missed that. And continue. I'm sorry. I'm being distracted here.
They're throwing things at you. Next thing you're going to have is a hook.
So here's the deal. Here's this.
You never mess up your braids, though.
You know why I'm holding. I got an etrog in my hand just for this Jewish. So in Colorado, there you're working for both. You're teaching part time and you're also helping at this place, this Shambhala.
Yeah, I was working on my teaching certificate, and it's this program, Oasis, where we were actually, let's say, designed to help the dispossessed, those who it was a non-residential program for ex-offenders. Generally, those ex-offenders were involved in drugs. The whole idea was to offer them an entryway into, well, our world, the world of whereby they could be functional in society. Actually, we were making progress until Reagan got elected.
Oh, well, there you go.
It was during the last 2 years of the Carter administration.
But let me ask you, did you ever, in dealing with these people, were you ever threatened? Did you ever have a problem? Because you were dealing with some danger. Some of them probably were innocent. Some of them just in bad places at the wrong time. And some of them were probably like, whoa. Did you ever have a real problem?
Nobody, we went and we did outreach at the jail. You know, everybody's innocent in the jail.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I hear you. But
yeah. So no, I didn't have an issue with any. Some people were just so high on whatever it was, angel dust. We would just drag them into the shower.
Wait. They were in jail and high on angel dust? What?
Well,
No.
they would be released on probation, but yes. Or they would be released to come to our program where they would get group counseling or GED training like that. So I had my specific job there. We had a staff that was divided up. Some did counseling. There was a Vietnam veteran who did counseling. I did the GED program. There was job counseling also for those who didn't know how to write a resume. It was all kind of those kinds of programs. Actually, as I said, we were starting to make progress when Reagan was elected, and then the program was disbanded.
Right. Well, I had to go for military hardware. That was his thing.
Military hardware. Exactly.
So let me ask you, in the years that you were teaching, almost 20 years in junior high school, what are some of the funniest, most ridiculous things that happened? You don't have to name names of idiot students, but I'm sure you had a couple. Tell me some stories.
Oh my gosh, stories. Okay, so I'll tell you one thing that came to mind is that there was a unit that we used to do on the Holocaust.
A unit? You found a eunuch from the Holocaust? Oh, a unit.
UNIT unit, yes.
Sorry, I just went nuts there for a minute.
And we read Elie Wiesel's Night. That was our project, okay? So how do I make that come alive? So I had the class pick numbers out of a hat, and then the 5 numbers that were selected, they would be the Jews, and they would sit in the back.
And did they have to tattoo the numbers on their arms, or they could just?
I never got to that place.
Okay.
Never got to that place. So, but when they came into the classroom, they all had to stand. The 5 of them that were picked, they had to stand until everybody else came in and sat down. Then they could sit down, and I would throw the books at them instead of handing them to them. All right. So I was treating them as second-class citizens. It was a really hard gig, but a fight broke out in one of those classes whereby racial epithets were hurled back and forth. It was almost like this was an experiment in there
was a book called The Wave. I don't know if you ever read it.
Blue Eyes. It's called Blue
Oh, Blue Eyes. Yeah. But there was this movie about where a teacher did that in a classroom situation.
Yeah.
And I think, and half the class was kind of the upper echelon, and the other half wasn't.
Blue Eyes is done by Race.
Well, yeah. It's called Blue Eyes, apparently. So you were doing that, unknowing you were creating this. So what happened in the fight?
Well, I had to send them both to the counseling office.
Oh, well, yeah.
I mean, they took it so seriously. And I found that was really true. You can create a simulation, and people will take it very seriously. In fact, even to this day, here it's 20 years later, sometimes I'll see somebody on the street and they will remember that experience.
Was it heavy? Did you ever try that again, or you were like, no?
Yes, I did it. I did it every year.
Really?
For a week. Yeah, it was a really hard gig to do, but I did it every year. And then the whole idea was, at the end of that gig, I wanted people to write about what was your experience? What did you feel when you were either one of the isolated ones, the marginalized ones, or in the classroom looking at the marginalized ones in another way? Some of the people who are in the main class, who are the, let's say, non-Jews, they would want to go to the back of the room where in quotes, where the Jews were. So I found that a kind of an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
So let's see.
I'm trying to think, maybe I would have done it with Roots, where I have half the room be whites and half the room, but I actually had actual whippings and hangings.
That would have gone over very well.
Because so fewer papers to grade if you kill a few of the kids. I mean, and not really a big loss. Let's face it, this is Colorado school district. But would you say, since you taught for a very long time?
I did.
Well, for 2 decades. How were the students back in, say, the 90s?
Yes.
I don't know how far back you went then, to when you left the
When I
Jewish.
left.
Are
I
they
left in
dumber? Are they
2001.
faster? Are they better in certain ways and worse in others? How would you say students have changed in 20 years?
This is a very good question. When I got there to John Evans, it was pretty much an inner city school, John Evans and Greeley. The demographics of the school were probably 65% Anglo, 35% Hispanic.
Wow.
The demographics changed, and the Hispanic students, they were pretty much English speaking. They were pretty much assimilated. But in the course of time, those demographics changed. So when I left the school, it had probably reversed, 65% Latino and 35% Anglo. And the 65% who were Latino, most of them spoke Spanish as their native language. So the demographics of this part of the country had changed. This was one reason why I boycotted high stakes standardized testing, because we were putting those children at a terrible disadvantage. Since English often wasn't their native language, they spoke it, but their native language was Spanish. So the test in and of itself was on its face unfair.
Well,
so that's,
let's get into that, because that was your first real big issue. Because you were before then, yes, you defended people as a lawyer. Yes, you helped folks who were ex-convicts and helping them get on their, helping the dispossessed and the downtrodden, or as they say, a voice for the voiceless, as that former student of yours wrote about you. But
rage against the machine.
Yeah, and having this rage against the machine there. But here's
well said.
the other deal. I mean, America, United States, is essentially an English-speaking country. Why is it wrong to force people, quote unquote, to speak the one unified language properly?
You just answered your own question.
Talk to me. Why? How can I answer that? Was I grammatically incorrect there?
The whole notion of forcing people is going to be counterproductive anyway. But you could start with their native language and use that as a point of departure to gradually bring them into a new culture. That's humane. However, to force them to learn, and also then to force a test on them, isolates them and turns them against the system anyway. And they feel so isolated from the system as it is. And those are the people who are at the in the shadows of life. So
if you don't do well on this test that you're talking about, the CSAP test, does that affect where you get into college? Is that, I thought the ACT and the SAT were the things for that. What does the CSAP stop you from doing if you fail, if you do badly?
It oppresses you. I lost my thought here.
Oh dear, I do that to people. Yeah.
So
I'm a test for people who have to talk to me. It's easy to fail when you're. I mean,
the CSAP and college admissions.
Well, CSAP is CSAP college admissions, right?
no, it isn't college admission.
What is it?
They've changed the anagram. It isn't college admission, but it puts tremendous pressure on students, and particularly if these students feel somehow marginalized or isolated, or don't feel part of the mainstream, it oppresses them even more. And that's why, I know where this thought was going, that we could look at the demographics and see who drops out of school. And if you look at the demographics, you will see that for the most part, people of color are those who have dropped out of school. It continues that way. And why do they drop out? Simply because they feel unaccepted, their culture, their language, they feel at odds with the mainstream. And that essentially is the purpose. Well, we can go two ways with this. The purpose of public education is ideally to bring out the best in everybody. And that was the mission of Dewey around the turn of the 20th century, who really made great inroads in the importance of a public education in which everybody's educated.
You know, we listen to him, but do we? I'm sorry. Continue. But let me ask you this. I mean, this idea of the people who are of color, if you will, and those are most likely to drop out. But does that have anything to do with the test? I mean, there's so many other factors. They may not have money. They may not have status. They may have terrible parental issues at home. If they have two parents at home, you should pardon the stereotypical idea of not having two folks at home. But seriously, so maybe the CSAP test is just an offshoot of that, but not really, oh, I failed the test, I'm going to give up and I'm going to quit school.
You're exactly right. It's just the tip of the iceberg. It's the tip of the iceberg. But
or the tip of the Goldberg, as my people like to say.
Goldberg would be good too. So it's a symptom of what's really wrong with public education. And so what we can do is go to the root and say, really, we need to address public education and that every child is valuable. And how can we bring out the best in each child? And we're not going to bring out the best in each child by forcing a high stakes, I'll underline that word, high stakes, so that phrase, on children. We're not going to bring out their best.
Let me ask you something though. If it's they're not children anymore, they're already teenagers. If they're taking that level test. But a question is, wouldn't it be lovely if one or two courses every semester from elementary school on were essentially civics, right? Of being a decent person, of how to do the most important basic parts of society and take part in society, and how to get along, and how to not be violent. Wonderful things to teach them to be great human beings.
Well
but you still also have to teach people higher level math, appreciation of literature, the social and the regular hard sciences, the things that create the greater things that we all enjoy, be it technology, be it science, be it curing things. So at a certain point, yes, it would be great if these people didn't feel disenfranchised. And so that we led them along and it's like, okay, here's, this is a class that everybody can pass because it's about getting along in the world. However, here's another class where you're going to be reading James Joyce. And if you're not ready, you're not ready. You may never be. What do?
Why should it always be in English?
Because it's in English, it's an American country.
So have you traveled in Europe at all?
A little bit. I sat in Auschwitz for a little while and it was not pleasant.
How was that? I think it's rare to go to Europe and find people who speak only one language. True,
very true. But how polyglot can we be? If we suddenly get an influx of Russian immigrants for whatever reason, they escape Putin, and we suddenly get 10 million Russian immigrants, do we suddenly make America have Russian be a third language? Yeah, everybody walking around with Google Translate all the time.
The more universal we can become as a society, the more we will feel at one with the rest of the world.
Yeah, but the point is, the rest of the world, if they want to come to this country, I don't go to Italy, and it's lovely when they speak English. It's lovely when they have signs in English and stuff, but I don't expect it. I don't demand it of them. If everything's in Italian and I'm there, it's their country. It's Italian. I get it. They speak English, whatever that language is. But you come to this country, I don't speak Yiddish all day.
Are you a traveler? Are you a traveler, a tourist, or are you going to stay?
What? Let's just say, let's say I wanted to stay. I would learn their language. It would be incumbent upon me. If I go to Swahili land, wherever they speak Swahili, which I think is near Detroit, then I would have to learn Swahili while I was there. And if I wasn't as good as the native Swahili speakers, I would be second-class citizen until I got to the level where I could. Don't think that's right.
I think you're asking a great deal of yourself.
You bet.
As an adult, you probably never would be considered a native. I mean, if you're going to think of it that way. Okay. But if you take children who hear another language at home all the time, for them to be in an English-speaking society school is often putting them at a disadvantage. We can use their native language so that they can, let us say, move forward. We can use it, but to oppress them, forcing them to learn it is often counterproductive, and they're the ones who drop out of society.
Well, let me ask you, when you were taking this stand, when you were a teacher at this junior high school, the Evans, John Evans, Bob Evans, right. Evans, Gil Evans, some Evans University, junior high school, and you took this stand. Were you the only teacher who
in the school?
Did? I mean, were there other people who agreed with you, but they wouldn't they went along anyway? Were you the alone?
So Rabbi, I have to change the subject slightly,
Oh,
but
please.
yes, but we're going pretty much in the same direction. So once I started studying what went on as far as the manufacture of this testing, I was amazed that all we had to do was follow the money. And who makes these tests? Who makes these tests? And there are corporations like Pearson and McGraw-Hill who manufacture these tests. They have their lobbyists. They talk to their lobbyists. Their lobbyists go to the state legislators. The state legislators, are influenced, let us say, by these lobbyists. And their job, that is the legislator's job, is to convince the public that these tests, mandated tests, are essential for the progress of the students, which is really false. Why is it false? Because it's all motivated by follow the money, follow Pearson, follow McGraw-Hill. They're going to make the test. What
would you replace them with? How would you calibrate? How do you measure success in a course that isn't just a humanist course, that isn't just
right,
well, a general understanding something, but where you really have to remember facts and figures and things build upon other things sequentially in terms of learning? How do you measure?
Well, I can't wait to answer that question.
Go for it, goddammit. Do it.
Have faith in the teachers in the classroom.
Okay. How does the teacher measure? I'm not talking about the state. How does the teacher quantify who remembers what, who knows what?
The teacher develops her own assessments or his own assessments for the students. And those are really fine ways, and I mean that in both senses of the word. Those are fine ways to measure how the students are doing. And they're much more three-dimensional and allow the student certain creativity with regard to those assessments, as opposed to filling in what do we call them now? Those scantrons.
Oh, fair enough. But you have a classroom full of people who are trying to learn Spanish. Let's say they're all novice English people who are taking Spanish because they have to, right, in junior high school. By the end of term, there are some people in there. Sorry?
They don't have to. They're not taking Spanish because
they have to take a language of some sort. They chose Spanish versus Italian versus Hebrew versus,
even that, you're going on another course here. Even that is optional. Taking a foreign language, a modern language, is optional in junior high.
Not in college. Maybe in certain. I think in high school you don't have to at this point. Maybe in some.
That's right.
Districts.
You don't have to.
Okay, it's an optional. They decide to. They want to take Spanish. All right, let's say you go through a semester with these people, right? Or I don't know if it's maybe a whole year in junior high school. There's some who are 90, 95, 98 A-level students, and there's some who are 70, 80. But when you grade, do you say, oh boy, 70 person, you came in with a real disadvantage. So therefore you deserve an A just as much as this person who can actually write 5 paragraphs in Spanish. You're laughing, but
I'm laughing. I don't quite know how to respond to that because that's totally not the case.
Okay.
So, would you phrase your question again so that I can?
I don't think I can.
I can.
I'm saying
go my way out of it.
If you have the people who are not given the leg up initially, they're struggling a bit. Right. But they're trying, but they're just, some people are better at languages than others, but they're all in the same class, right? So without a statistical measuring test of something where they fill out the path, which word is the correct word, which is the proper verb tense, which is this form. Without that kind of testing, how can you really tell? Okay, this person, they're fabulous. They can go right on to intermediate Spanish. And this person, not so much, but they worked just as hard. They worked even harder. And for them, getting a 70 on this quiz is like this person getting 102.
So would you agree, Rabbi, that language skills are very diverse? It's almost like a panorama. For example, some people can be poetic, but not know grammar. I think Hemingway was that way. And other people can know grammar, but yet they're very, very constricted and don't have that kind of creative sense for language. Would you agree with that, Rabbi?
I would agree with that. I get the thought, but you know what? I'm also someone who says if you can't get the thought out of your head properly, it's useless because you can't tell or share exactly what you want to say.
You can't get the what out of your head?
Even if you're poetic and wonderful, you have these great ideas, if they're all in your head, it's no point to anybody. You got to be able to get them out correctly.
What did you say? If you can't get the what out of your head?
You can't get the idea out. If you may have the best idea in the world, but if you
Yeah.
can't phrase it in a way that will communicate to the world around you,
Can you learn that?
well, you tell me. Can everybody learn that in the same level? Oh, this is good. Oh, I'm having fun here. We're talking, by the way, with Don Perl. By the way, what is your Hebrew name?
David.
David! Wonderful name. David Perl in the Daverhood. We're bantering, we're lecturing. But you didn't answer the question, though, of when you were anti-CSAP and refused to administer the test. Did any of your fellow colleagues or female colleagues stand with you?
Well, that's a good question. Some of them secretly did, but nobody came forward. They realized for the most part what a fraud it was too. Yes, because as I said, if you follow the money, you could see that it has totally to do with capitalism and nothing to do really with education.
So how did that all work out? How did you personally took that stand? Did you take a crap from the admins? Did parents come to you? I mean, what was the fallout of staking your claim?
Oh, wow. So I would say fallout from my claim. Well, I was suspended for 2 weeks while the test was being given. So somebody else, another teacher would come and I couldn't go back to school for 2 weeks. But you know, the bar exam only takes 2 days.
I've never heard of it. Were you suspended with or without pay?
Without pay.
Oh. Otherwise, that's a great gig. But no, without the pay is pretty bad. So, but that was 1 year, right? I don't know. Do they do this every year? The CSAP testing, every grade, every year?
They did it every year, and then they changed the anagram. They call it something else, TCAP, TCAP, and then every 2 years or so they change the anagram, but essentially it's the same thing.
So what happened the year after that?
I couldn't go back. Well, I made it my last year.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I couldn't see myself ever administering that test. So I had an offer from UNC to teach Spanish, so I took that. So
but were you full time at the University of Northern Colorado? You were adjunct or no?
I was a lecturer.
Oh, that's all right. So that's kind of a full, because I know what they pay adjuncts there per class. It's not comparable to a full-time teaching salary at a junior high school. Could you get benefits or anything? How did you manage?
I got insurance.
Good. Oh, okay. That's so. So how did you like teaching college students versus junior high school kids?
Wow. Oh, it was just so totally different format.
Why?
I loved it in a different way. I loved the kids in junior high. They were my children. And these are emerging adults at the university. So I would treat them differently. I would treat them
but
almost like peers.
Almost like what?
Almost like peers, because they're adults.
Okay, got it. And was that easier?
Was it easier? Emotionally easier, and academically it was more challenging.
Fair enough. Okay,
enough.
Did you retired from that? Why? Because you still have all this energy. Why are you no longer teaching Spanish? Because everybody loves you. You had just like the most sweetest reputation as a professor there. Everybody go, oh, it's done, huggy. Why did you stop?
Well, it was time to leave. I just felt it was time to leave. I was 75, and it was time to leave. Oh,
okay. All right. I'm just wondering because you seem like the kind of person who loves to teach and would gladly do it until you drop dead in front of a classroom when you're 90.
I used to say that. When are you going to leave? Somebody would ask me, or people would ask me. I said, they're going to have to drag me out of here feet first.
But not true. Not true.
Not true. Here I am. Still upright, still above ground.
Right. Let's get to the sad part of the conversation. And not the Holocaust, which is I talk about so often that it's not even sad anymore. It's just something that I bring up for because I have to, because I'm Jewish. If you don't mention the Holocaust every 15 minutes, we all disappear. So I mentioned the Holocaust, but you had to go through an ordeal in a few years ago. You mentioned that you were married once, you got married again.
Yes.
Right? And you lost your wife, she was sick for a
Yes.
while. And you had to not only deal with that, but get over her loss, which is very, very tough on you. Is that what started you on poetry?
Oh, wow.
Heavy question, yeah.
It is heavy. Well, I have always had, let us say, waves of the muse come to me and write poetry. Somehow it strikes me, and other times it doesn't strike me. So we all go through hard times and amazing times and fourth dimensional times in our lives, whereby nothing is normal, particularly now with this pandemic. This is love in the time of, not love in the time of cholera, but love in the time of pandemic.
Love in the time of Corona. Yeah, right. There you go. That's the sequel. Love in the time of Corona. But
it is a sequel.
It took you a long time to pull out of a very, not a dark place, but must have been an incredibly difficult place. How did you do it? Was it writing? Was it meeting with other people? Was it just time? What gets you through?
All of the above.
Was it marijuana? Did that help?
Yes, that's true. It was all of the above.
You're in Colorado. Oh, yeah. So, and now is that helping the coping mechanisms that you had then? Are they helping now to get through inflation?
Yeah, so I'll say this about what happened after retirement, is that I went to volunteer at the Immigration Refugee Center, whereby I could use many of the same skills that I had acquired. They used me to translate. And here we have students from all over the world, from Sub-Saharan Africa, from East Asia. There were Rohingya, who are also displaced people.
What were you translating then? How Somalian is not Spanish? How would you do it?
Right, and there are also people from Latin America, from Mexico and Latin America. But so I would help out in the classroom. These are people, some of them almost my age, learning English for the first time, and it is their first written language. So to watch them just try to make the letters of the language was absolutely humbling. What their dedication to learn in their later years, I found absolutely amazing.
Are you still doing that? Not during Corona, but are you still, when this is over, God willing, are you gonna still help there? Are you still volunteering and doing that?
Yeah, we closed. They're very reliant on the calendar of the school district. So they closed for spring break and we haven't reopened. So who knows when we'll reopen, or even if. That has to do with funding too. But anyway, yeah, so it's the Northern Colorado Refugee and Immigration Center, and I found it a light for those people, and so humbling that I could even participate in that, contribute to that.
I'm going to get back to the creative part, the poetry part. Question here. First of all, do you have a favorite all-time poet or poem? Verse, if you will, or couplet, or filthy, whichever. All
right, this is what just popped into my head. So at the turn of the 20th century, 1898, there was a group of poets in Spain called La Generación de 98, the generation of 98. At that time, Spain had lost all its colonies and didn't even have the whole Iberian Peninsula. There was a piece there that was Portugal. And so the country was going through this, let us say, a depression of spirit for the whole country. A group of poets rose up called the generation of 98, because it was 1898. That was in the aftermath of the Spanish-American War, where Spain lost Cuba, Puerto Rico, the Philippines, and they had already lost all of South America and Mexico.
That's not a good outcome. Yeah.
They were suffering a, let us say, a national depression. So this group of poets rose up. one of whom was called Antonio Machado, was named Antonio Machado. And he wrote this, it just came into my head right now. And I'll tell you in Spanish, and then I'll translate it. It's caminante no hay camino, se hace el camino al andar. Walker, there is no road. We make the road on walking. So I think that really is applied, really can be applied to our world today when we are so totally out of control, our world so totally out of control, controlled by something we can't even see, a virus that is smaller than microscopic. So I think it makes really good sense to have that kind of feeling that, okay, we're totally out of control. We'll just make the road step by step as we walk. So that's just what came to mind.
That's a pretty prescient line right there. Let me ask you, do you have a favorite poem of yours? One that you feel most proud of having written or is most personal to you?
Yeah, I don't have it with me though. It's a poem I wrote. It's kind of a rap poem I wrote in the aftermath of my boycott. And I took all those Latin sounding words like administration, institution, education, and rhymed it in a kind of a rap. It was really fun. It was fun to write.
All right.
It has appeared, well, it appeared in the Greeley Tribune.
Speaking again of Greeley, which is where you're living in northern Colorado. Now, your activism years ago had to do with that testing, but you left after 1 year. You just said, "The hell with this! I'm leaving the junior high school system here. I'm not going to deal with it." And then also, I had thought that you were pretty involved in the whole anti-fracking movement in northern Colorado because they brought all the oil people in, and the machines we're having a last laugh now. Nobody wants to buy the damn stuff. But here's the question. I mean, did you were threatened when you were?
Oh, that's true.
Anti ridiculous fracking, like 2 feet next to a junior high school sort of thing. So tell.
Exactly. Yeah,
Well,
I received a couple of.
Yeah.
I was threatened. Yeah, in fact, the police came to my house, which was good, and the mayor called, also good.
Right.
So yes, I got a couple of threatening letters, something about veiled threats, but they were so poorly written. I just
see, these are the people who didn't pass CSAP, and they passed that test. See, if they'd studied, but
they would have been in the forefront. They would have been in the forefront of the movement.
So
we need people well educated.
Did you ever feel really afraid, or did you realize they're just morons and they're blowing off steam? And
I got a wave of fear. Who knows? I got a wave of fear, but I had to rise above it.
Yeah, I have to say, when I visited Greeley around that time, the one thing that I wouldn't say it turned my stomach, but that chilled me a little bit was that see from house to house to house, every other house or more than that, there would be the sign, "We stand with oil and gas. We love it." I mean, who the fuck are they praying to? Who is their master? That it's not just, okay, we know it's important to the economy, we know it can be a good thing, but this idea of, yes, we stand with OPEC. What kind of fucking idiots?
Rabbi, I'm going to bring you another sign right now.
Do it.
My friend Pat's bringing over here another sign, and I want you to see it. I want everybody to see it. Well, let's see here.
Yeah, pull out a little bit there. A little, our families, yes, deserve. Our families deserve. All right, clean air and sex. No, water. Just kidding. Clean air, our families. So, did you have that on your lawn?
We have it on our lawn. Yes. You have it now. Did you have it also back like 5 years ago? No, we just had it recently within the past few months.
Well, how is fracking there been going? I mean, right now it's probably pretty quiet, but how did things end up shaking out in terms? I mean, just it went away. People voted for it, and you live with it. Did you ever think of leaving the conservative town that you're in and moving to a place more like Boulder or a more liberal burg somewhere?
So, okay, getting back to what you just said, actually, we were instrumental. Our movement was instrumental in the passage of Senate Bill 181, which requires, the key word here in the legislation is regulate. In other words, the Colorado Oil and Gas Commission has now been armed with regulating oil and gas as opposed to fostering it. So in
Good.
the past, it was fostering. So that movement, or this movement that we contributed to, thus the sign,
Yeah. Our families deserve clean air and water. Yeah.
has had positive effect with the legislature.
See, this morning I made a movement that fouled the water, but that's a very different kind of a thing. Just kidding.
You're excused. You're
Thank
only human, Rabbi.
Barely, just barely.
Even though you are a liaison to the hereafter, you're still human.
But politics in Greeley, Colorado, I mean, with that woman who was elected, and then the Republicans didn't like her, so they made her go away because she was gay or something. Rochelle Galindo, all that stuff that was going on. I mean, it's a crazy fucking town for a small little city.
Well said. Well said. We have been in the limelight for all the wrong reasons. For example, just recently, the meatpacking plant.
Well, you guys know, you got, I don't know if you know this, but on Wednesday or Thursday, Greeley made the front page of the New York Times, and it was about reopening tattoo parlors, because this is the thing that the world really needs. This is like when people go without for 4 or 5 weeks, they can manage, but 6 weeks without a new tattoo, oh my God, just the mental anguish involved. What is wrong with that town where you live? I'm sure, but don't you get frustrated? I mean, the fact you are surrounded really by people who voted not only for Donald Trump, but they voted twice for George W. Bush back in the day. Don't you look around and go, how do I live next to these people?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. I've asked myself that many times, but I think just maybe I've been called to be here in the middle of this, darkness, to offer a light.
Well, what is your current, I hate to put it like in a hippie-ish, what is your current cause? Is it still fracking? Are you picking up the mantle of any other societal ills once this disease ill goes away?
Oh, that's a really good question. I found a home at the Immigration and Refugee Center. I could just be happy doing that.
Yeah,
so whenever that comes back, I'll be happy doing that. In the meantime, we're sheltering in place as best we can.
Right.
You're a young man, so you don't have to be quite as concerned as we elder statesmen have to.
Have you lost anybody? Have you known, has anybody that you know died from COVID or been seriously like ventilator sick and got better?
Well, let's see, your brother.
He wasn't ventilator sick.
He wasn't ventilator sick, but he did test positive.
He did test positive.
Yeah.
He recovered.
But who is talking? Someone named Pat, by the way, is helping you.
Yes.
Who is Pat in this situation, in this scenario? A longtime friend, or she sounds female.
Yes.
I can't, or well, the other Pat doesn't have a gender from Saturday Night Live, so I'm being very careful here. But this is a gendered female person. She sounds very nice.
Sweetheart friend, and that.
Okay. Does she want to come on camera and say hi and wave or something?
You want to wave?
Sure.
She's going to come over and wave.
Hello, here we go. Here comes Pat.
Hi.
Shalom, Pat. Oh,
Hello.
you look very goyish. You do not look remotely Jew-esque. Are you? What are you?
She's Italian.
Oh, yeah, there we go. So, well, very nice to meet you, by the way. Shalom.
Nice to meet you.
Are you retired? What do you do? How do you occupy your days when there isn't COVID all over the place?
Pat was instrumental in that sign, by the way.
Yeah, I'm in I'm a member of Weld Air and Water, which is an anti-fracking movement. So there are a few of us in here, in Greeley and we did do the signs, and we work for that, and I do things, like play guitar and stuff like that for my personal.
Habitat.
Would you mind? I mean, we could use a little bit. Well, it won't sound that great apparently on YouTube, but what song do you love to play more than any other? But besides Hava Nagila,
That's a hard question.
It's a hard question. Yeah.
What song do I like to play? Recently, I've liked to play the Simon and Garfunkel "Hazy Days of
Oh, he says of winter. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Look around, leaves are brown. Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
it's a great song.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So Mazel Tov. Well, it's lovely to meet you, Pat. But we're talking to Don, so get the hell off camera. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Oh yeah, I have charm, don't I? So
You are charming. Pat also works for Habitat for Humanity, and she volunteers at the Democratic headquarters.
Oh, so yeah, so serious.
So we met campaigning against fracking.
Oh,
So romantic.
it's so romantic. Isn't that romantic?
Romantic.
It is.
Is that what Joyce said?
It's something that isn't romantic. So I love so much about you, Don, even though sometimes we're political, you're to the left of me, no question. But there's one thing this man, in preparation for this interview, did or said that kind of disgusted me, I have to say. That made me really upset. I have to say this.
Yes,
I
Rabbi.
asked you for your patented, your favorite charoset recipe.
Yes, you didn't like it.
And you came back with something that was full of fruit.
Yes, of course.
What? Tell people your charoset recipe on the Sega plate. What do you put in that Sega plate in something that should be really delicious and full of, yes, apples, that's a fruit, but nuts and cinnamon, wine a little bit. What do you put in your charoset? What the hell's wrong with you? What? Tell us.
Dates, oranges.
Orange. Who the fuck puts oranges in charoset?
Yeah, we do.
Why?
Have you tried it? Try it sometime. And then, okay, some Manischewitz wine, and then cook it. Cook it with cinnamon and honey.
But you cook it? Oh, you cook it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about this.
We boil off the wine with the fruit and the nuts. It
Right.
thickens. Yes,
Don't boil
exactly.
your nuts. That'd be painful. But
What do you have in your hand there?
it's a wrong holiday, but I have an etrog and lulav. Just I don't have any Passover items in front of me. Actually, there's a Seder plate over there. You can find it.
Yeah.
It's all right. It's okay. But so what does it taste like? Does it taste? It must be really super sweet.
Yes, delicious. You should try it. You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait for Passover.
I know. So you boil off the wine with all the stuff in it.
Yes.
Is there walnuts? What the nuts do you put in there?
Yeah, almonds, walnuts. You can grind them up if you like.
All right. So that's more paste like. So it really is more
Exactly. Like mortar.
Okay.
Like mortar. Except it's delicious.
Oranges in it.
Yeah.
You know, Jews couldn't wait for oranges to ripen before they left Egypt. How do you justify oranges in there? I don't know.
I don't justify it. It just was in the recipe, so I threw it in.
Well, was this a recipe was it like your mama made, or a recipe that as an adult you found?
I found it as an adult. I looked it up online.
I am curious. What were your parents like? Were they hippies or pre or the Depression era? Or what? What were your folks like?
You know, I just had this thought. I'll answer that question in a minute. But I think you and I met 2 Shavuos ago because you walked by my office and you said, "Happy Shavuos." And,
Right.
and I don't quite know what prompted that, but maybe there's a sign on the door, "Pray for the peace of Jerusalem."
Yeah.
Something
I happen to be walking down the corridors of because they don't have any guards there, so anybody can basically walk in, even
Anybody can walk in,
dressed like me.
even a rabbi.
Yeah. Well, I guess I saw a rabbi. They figure I won't be packing heat. They'd be wrong. But so I'm walking down the hall, and then I see all these goyim all over the place because it's Colorado, and then this person who's got a sign on the door, or a thing I think from the New York Times, an article about Jerusalem. I'm like, what the hell? And also you had all these rainbowy things in there. So I thought you were Fagala, quite honestly. Never occurred to me that you were not only married once but twice and that you like girls. Doesn't, but I think it's lovely. I think you can, whoever wants to do whatever they want to do, they want to bend over, then I'm fine with it.
Dentistry is your next profession, right?
Because I just love people.
You should be a rabbi in a prison.
I should be a rabbi in prison. I go over very well. But that was, yes, I think
that would be excellent.
But this was not 2 years. This had to be 3 or 4 or 5 years ago.
The temple with Rabbi Stan.
Time constricts. And actually, Dave used to see you even before then, vaguely. You didn't really meet, but at the Seders at the temple in Greeley.
Oh, did you go to those Seders at the synagogue?
So before I was banned, yes.
Yeah.
I still could before Rabbi Sarah said, no. I tried coming in one time for Purim. This was not fair. This was not fair. I tried to dress as a cute little character. I wanted to be a narwhal for Purim, and came to the Purim festival, and my narwhal horn looked a bit too phallic. It was just a paper towel roll with a stocking around it, but it didn't look like a narwhal horn so much as the kind of thing a black person would show you in prison. So yeah.
Nobody mistook you for Haman.
No. No one mistook me for a normal human being either. It was a sad thing. But that's how you met me and how you met Dave and how we've known each other. Now, what the hell was the question I asked you in the first place?
I don't remember now, but
your mom and dad. Your mom
yeah.
And pop. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
America, were they immigrants? What was your background then?
They were second generation, or were they first generation? Their parents were born in Europe.
Right.
My mom's parents were born in Lithuania. I can remember my grandfather spoke very little English.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. He used to sit in the rocking chair and smoke a cigar, and used to walk down to the kosher butcher. I can remember walking down with him to the kosher butcher. It was just a few blocks down the street, and he would go in the back and play cards. He would chew tobacco, walk down the street, spit. I remember once asking him, I think I was 5.
Yeah. No, I
mean, it's funny. Can I try that?
No, it's interesting how you went right to the grandparents and not even necessarily talking about your mom and dad. It was like that memory.
They had to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that was my grandfather, who did speak very little English. And my grandmother, I didn't know her. She died when my mom was very young. But on my father's side, they came from, we don't know if it was Hungary or Romania. Nobody really knows because the borders were always changing.
Right.
My grandfather on my dad's side, he didn't even have a last name. So he came to this town in Romania or Hungary, we don't know, but it was named Perl. So he just took the last name of the town because he was more gypsy than Jew. He just took the last name of the town, and
so his name was Cher Perl, basically. No, I don't know. What was it? What was his first name? What did you call him?
Joseph. He was Joseph.
Joseph Perl. That's a great name, actually. It's a great American name when you did Joseph Perl. Fabulous name.
He's an interesting person. He's even written up in a footnote in a couple of history books, because when he came to the United States, he started a baker's union. And then when he had his own bakery, he wouldn't let the baker's union in.
That is so typically Jewish. That is so wonderful. Actually, Pullman, if you ever know the Pullman story, was the same way. He was trying to be all nice to his workers and pay them more than anybody else, and clean living conditions and a wonderful town to live, except everybody had to buy all their stuff at his store. And then when the workers started to be like this, it's like, I don't want a union here. It's an interesting thing what capitalism does to people. And by the way, I'm a capitalist, so give me money. I'm all for it.
That's a subject for another interview, isn't it?
It kind of is. Actually, we're coming up on a full hour here with the delightful and the sweet Don Perl. Before I let you go, let me ask you, what is your happiest, fondest memory? Like a moment in your life, whether it was living in Mexico, which sounds like that's sort of the one place, or it might have been a moment teaching, or it might have been a moment in your current retirement, some great, fond, happy memory for you.
Would you ask a heavier question, please?
I did. I asked about before, your wife had MS. I mean, we could have gone there. I didn't want to, but I wanted to go out with something happy and joyous and fun.
Let's say turning points. Okay, let's say turning points in life. Let's do that.
Okay.
All right. So a turning point in life was having lived in Mexico.
Right.
That was a turning point. And another turning point was working at this program, Oasis of Chandala, what I learned about people and about politics in that program. That was a turning point also. So I think I brought those dimensions with me for the rest of my life. What timing is this? Which makes me think of the For Whom the Bell Tolls.
That was not a comment on our guest, ladies and gentlemen. I should have got one when I was speaking. That's beautiful.
Is that priceless or what?
Well, I've got to end the conversation right there. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking to Don Perl and to his good friend, Pat. You can wave again, Pat, if you want to, very briefly, because we don't want you stealing the spotlight. But thank you so much, Pat, and to David Perl for being a marvelous, lovely guest. I wish you certainly, obviously, stay healthy, stay well, stay active and activist, and say hi to all of Dave's friends also from the writing group and to all the fine people in Greeley, and be well and shalom to you.
Shalom. Rabbi, I want to thank you very much for this interview. It's been a delight.
Likewise.
It's been a delight. Thank you.
You too.
Are we still on?
I'm
Shalom.
going to remove you here somehow. No.
Shalom Aleichem.
Bye-bye. Go away.
Goodbye. Goodbye, Rabbi. Goodbye, Dave. Goodbye, Joyce.
Bye. Bye.
It's lovely. It's lovely. I loved every minute of it.
Me too. Get off. Oh.
I'm off.
No, you're not. I'm still seeing you. Go away.
Yeah.
You have to hit end meeting, please.
Go here?
Yeah. Ask Pat.
Leave meeting. I'm leaving the meeting.
Leave meeting.
Shalom.
There we go. Shalom.
Love to you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We'll just wait until he hits the damn button.
I did hit the button.
You gotta hit it again because you're
Yeah,
still
I'm leaving.
here. Oh, bye-bye. Okay. Oh. Delightful times talking. Wasn't that a wonderful, wonderful conversation, ladies and gentlemen, with Don Perl here in the Daverhood. This is Rabbi Sal Solomon. I'm not going to go away so quick because I have one more item to do for you. And since I'm already dressed, I'm going to do that. But first, let's play a little more of this delightful Spanish song that we all know so well. Go figure, when you have the karaoke version of La Cucaracha, basically after the first initial part, nothing happens in the damn song. Sorry about that, but I am Rabbi Sal Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches. And yes, I just had a marvelous conversation with educator and poet Don Perl. But I also want to talk about something that has been on my mind. And what we do, and what I have done on this Dave's Gone By program for years, although I haven't done it that recently, are these rabbinical reflections. These are my sermons or sermonettes, if you will, short little blasts from the mind of Saul that have to do with everything from Judaism to just current events, the world at large. If there's something on my mind that week, I spend 5, 6, 7 minutes talking about it and filling your ears with my thoughts. Well, I do have some thoughts this week, and we're going to be talking about social distancing in my rabbinical reflection. Hello, it's me, Rabbi Sal, with Rabbinical Reflections for you all. I come from Temple Sons of Bitches here in Great Neck, New York. Shut up and pay attention to me. Shalom, damn it. This is Rabbi Sal Solomon with a rabbinical reflection for the week of May 2nd, 2020. You know, I usually take great pride in being Jewish, despite my neurosis and fear-based logic and my alarmingly small penis. Other aspects of my heritage give me significant nachas. We're survivors, we're creative and cultural, and we're smart. Even anti-Semites warn the world that we're crafty. We use our big brains. What a lovely stereotype. French people are snooty, Italians are hot-blooded, the Polish are Polish, but Jews are always the smart ones. Granted, In recent years, we've gotten complacent. Look in a library at night. You know the Asians have usurped us, but at least we're still second smartest. Or so I thought, until this past week. On Wednesday, Rabbi Chaim Mertz, no relation to Fred or Ethel, he dropped dead of COVID-19, a tragedy. My condolences to his family. How did the Orthodox community respond? With a funeral, a public funeral. 2,500 Orthodox Jews of the Haredi sect gathered on the streets of Williamsburg, Brooklyn. Did they stand 6 feet apart? No. Did they all wear masks? No. Although some of those beards could have doubled as a hairnet. Did they pay any attention to scientists and state officials who said, excuse me, we're in a pandemic, stay indoors and practice social distancing and Hulu watching? These people did none of this. No doubt their thinking was, this is our community, we self-govern, and if we choose to put ourselves at risk, that's our business. Also, we share antibodies because we're all inbred anyway. Mayor de Blasio looks at this blatant violation of our community standards and possibly the law and says, what's wrong with you people? Or to be precise, he tweeted, quote, my message to the Jewish community and to all communities is this. The time for warnings has passed. I've instructed the New York Police Department to summon or even arrest those in large groups. This is about stopping the disease and saving lives, period. Did the Jewish community apologize? Did they say to the mayor, Slicha, we were overcome with grief for our dead rabbi, but we were thoughtless and disrespectful to our neighbors. Won't happen again, no matter who dies. Although if Messiah comes, we'll probably still turn out in big numbers. That was not the response of the Haredis or the greater Jewish community. Instead, they jumped the race wagon and accused de Blasio of the bigotry by singling them out. What a load of schmucks! The mayor singled them out because they didn't single themselves out, they multiplied. If they stayed home and watched the funeral on Instagram, or they did an orderly procession with everyone 6 feet apart and masked, they could have served as an object lesson for the world. Hey, when the shutdown ends, this is how you can go into a sports stadium or a school assembly or a klezmer rave party in a safe, public-minded fashion. Instead, they poured into the streets and milled around like a fire drill. And that behavior gives ammunition to real anti-Semites. Why shouldn't they sneer? You see, the Jews claim to love the USA, but when push comes to shove, they push and shove. Religious ritual supersedes American law, and they turn a blind ear to mayors, governors, police forces, anyone outside their crazy creed. Pardon me. Delicious. For their part, the Haredis say they notified the police before the march and were given the go-ahead. A conversation that I imagine went, hi, we're going to congregate, better get barriers ready so the goyim don't bother us. Thank you. They also noted that crowds elsewhere in the region turned out in numbers to watch a military flyover of Air Force Thunderbirds. Why is de Blasio picking on us and not them? Fair point. He should have crapped all over both of you. Instead, the mayor was forced to temper his tweets. He didn't apologize, thank goodness, but he did express regret for lashing out, saying he was frustrated by the disease, which has killed 63,000 New Yorkers, among them quite a few Jews. Over the next year, this country must have serious debates about the line between security and civil rights. I mean, it's 18 years since 9/11, and we still take off our shoes at the airport. What is that about? I've hurt more people with my foot odor than a shoe bomber ever could. So it will be interesting to see if the Orthodox, in their huddled masses, spread coronavirus so much worse than the rest of us on our couches watching Nailed It all day. But that's for scientists and statisticians to figure out. In the meantime, the law, especially in a sardine tin like the 5 boroughs, is to socially isolate. I admit that's easy for me because I hate people. But whatever your ethnicity, if you think your religion is more important than common sense or the common good, please convert and stay 6 feet, or stay 600 feet away from people like me who don't want to die. And if I do die, no procession. Just give me a pay-per-view special. I'll do this again. Just give me a pay-per-view special with Gilbert Gottfried telling dirty jokes and Morgan Freeman doing the eulogy. Oh, and naked teenagers, for obvious reasons. This has been a rabbinical reflection from Rabbi Saul Solomon, Temple Sons of Bitches. And shalom. The views expressed by Rabbi Saul Solomon do not necessarily represent those of the Daverhood, although mostly they do. So we thank Rabbi Saul for being with us on the show. Remember that his website is shalomdammit.com, shalom, D-A-M-M-I-T, shalomdammit.com. That is the place to read and hear all his previous rabbinical reflections, as well as watch episodes of his TV show that he did on Long Island cable TV about 10 years ago, and also a great place to watch, it's on YouTube, but he's got a link to a recording of his doing Shalom Dammit, an evening with Rabbi Saul Solomon off Broadway several years back. It's all there at his website, shalomdammit.com. You definitely want to check that out. And again, we thank Rabbi Saul. His Twitter feed is at Rabbi Saul Solomon, his website, shalomdammit.com. And we certainly thank Don Perl for becoming a friend of the Daverhood. Now, Don is, when we say a friend of the Daverhood, what we mean is someone who has been on the program either recently or many, many years ago. And we like to keep tabs on them. We like to know, hey, what have you been up to in the time since you've been on this program? Are you in a different show? Have you written another book or a song? What are the friends of the Daverhood up to at this point in time? So yeah, the friends of the Daverhood. For example, want to let you know that musician David Broza, speaking of Jewish people, David Broza has a new single out called Tears for Barcelona that was just released yesterday, and he's got a new album on the way that's coming out in a couple of weeks. So go check out David Broza, B-R-O-Z-A. Want to give a shout out, a very happy birthday, a happy 96th birthday to Sheldon Harnick. He turned 96 on April 30th. And in his honor, J Records is streaming Rothschild and Sons on SoundCloud for free through May 30th. So you want to check that out. Rothschild and Sons is a revision of a Broadway musical that Sheldon Harnick co-wrote called The Rothschilds, all about Baron Meyer Rothschild and his children trying to make their way in Europe. And it was a pretty good show. I mean, it was before my time. And Hal Linden, our friend of the Daverhood, was in the original. Well, they revived it, I believe at the York Theater Company, with a new book, and they tinkered with it and worked on it, and Sheldon Harnick was involved. And so they recorded the cast album, and you can hear it at SoundCloud now through the end of May. And happy 96th birthday to Sheldon Harnick. Want to let you know that public television in New York, pbs.org, is showing all 4 Gabriel family plays. These are plays that are written by Richard Nelson. 3 of them were done at the Public Theater. I think the last one was just done virtually. And they also feature our friend J.O. Sanders in the cast. And I'm dying to see these because they're, it's all about an American family around the kitchen table. That is, apparently that's really the show. They just sit there, they talk about life, they talk about paying bills and politics, and it carries them through around the whole election cycle from 2016 and beyond. So they've recorded them, and now you can watch for free these plays as they were done in the Public Theater. They're all by our friend Richard Nelson. They're the Gabriel family plays, and you can find them on pbs.org or check Channel 13 for the streams of them. And it's only going to be running for like a week, so you don't have a lot of time. Annie Golden is playing Madame Floyd in the musical Bleeding Love. Yeah, Annie Golden was on the show just 2 or 3 weeks ago, and she's in this virtual musical, a podcast only. It's not, there's no visual, it's just audio. And you can hear it on Apple Podcasts, Bleeding Love. Today at 8 o'clock, speaking of things that you can watch, Jorma Kaukonen is doing his 5th live solo concert. He's over on his Fur Peace Ranch. So if you want to hear Jorma Kaukonen playing his guitar and singing, you can do it tonight at 8 live on YouTube. Tomorrow night at 8, speaking of live things, now perhaps the most famous person coming out of this whole COVID thing in terms of theater is our friend of the neighborhood, Seth Rudetsky, who hates us because the rabbi asked him a very dark personal question. But you know,
They do that with everybody.
Rabbi does that with everybody. Seth just took it personally, which sucks because Seth and I went to junior high school and high school together. But Seth is now,
Even when people get big, their head swells.
in a manner of speaking, I think he was always that kind of flamboyant way, shall we say. I'm not going to make any friends with him by saying that, am I? But Seth is huge now because Seth is like the man. Because he was music director, he's been a conductor on Broadway, he's done his cabaret show at Don't Tell Mama for a bunch of years, and he was I believe he was in the band for Rosie O'Donnell's show. But now he and his super wealthy husband are in New York, and they're coordinating these Broadway level chats of all these celebrities coming on, answering questions, just talking about their lives and careers. So check out what they're doing on Sunday, tomorrow night. Stars in the House with Seth Rudetsky. They're reuniting members of the cast of the Broadway show, The Full Monty, including its writer, David Yazbek, who's our friend of the neighborhood, and Tony winner, Andre DeShields, who is also our friend, and some other members of that cast. So check out Stars in the House with Seth Rudetsky tomorrow night at 8. I think that is on YouTube. It might be on Broadway.com or one of those places. I'm not 100% sure. Want to remind you that James Sibley has been doing nightly meditations on Facebook. So you can just join her for a half hour and do a calming, centering meditation in a creative way. Evan Seplow is the founder and editor of StageBuddy.com. I don't know what on earth they're writing about since it's a website about New York nightlife, but do check it out. Dr. Demento at drdemento.com. I don't know if he's been putting up new episodes of the Dr. Demento show during the shutdown, as it were. However, his website has Dr. Demento shows going back to the 1970s, before he was even syndicated, like when it was just on radio in Berkeley. So you're going to want to go to drdemento.com. You're also going to want to check out Stuart Brown's website, soundsofbroadway.com, to hear 24/7 Broadway show tunes. And of course, Bob Cudmore doing podcasts of upstate New York history at bobcudmore.com. Those, my friends, are the friends of the neighborhood. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Dave's Gone By live on this Saturday morning. It is May 2nd, 2020. I'm Dave Lefkowitz. That is my darling and adorable wife, Joyce. This is Potato. This is a lemon that is masquerading as an etrog. I have no idea why. And you're watching the 744th edition of the show that we're calling Pearl of Wisdom in honor of the guest who was on the program before. Remember, if you missed it, if you missed that wonderful conversation that Rabbi Saul had with Don Perl, wait a few hours. It will be up on Facebook. Again, the Facebook archives everything. And we hope to have it up by tomorrow on the davesgoneby.com website, davesgoneby.com, where all the archives reside. Hey, I mentioned Broadway, and I mentioned Seth Rudetsky being like the big man about town on Broadway right now. Well, we talk about Broadway every week here on Dave's Gone By, because I've been a theater critic for 30-something years, a playwright, an actor, a director, certainly a theater journalist for a chunk of time. So I love talking about the theater, and even though there's no theater going on right now on actual live stages, it's all being done virtually, there's still some stuff to talk about inside Broadway. Inside Broadway, a look at theater on and off Broadway and beyond, brought to you by Total Theater and Performing Arts Insider. Curtain going up. Well, on Inside Broadway today, May 2nd, 2020, oh boy, we have lots and lots of death. Tons of dead people to talk about. The happy part is I don't think any of them died of corona. They just died of old age and different reasons, but we do want to mention them and bid them farewell from the Daverhood for what they've contributed to the American theater. So, for example, the big one, the big major person who passed away this week was Bernie Gersten, who was 97 years old. He died on April 27th. Producer Bernard Gersten. So here's how his career started. He was stationed in Hawaii during World War II, and he saw a production there of Macbeth featuring Morris Evans and Dame Judith Anderson. He got hooked, and he started working on military productions. Came back home, went to New York, was hired by John Houseman, you remember from Paper Chase, to be the stage manager at Stratford, Connecticut's American Shakespeare Festival. Well, so he was working there. Gersten, at that point, I didn't even know this about him. He had gone to, as liberal Jews did back in the day, he went to some Communist Party meetings. He was brought up before UAC, the House Un-American Activities Committee, and grilled and so forth. And his job was saved by John Houseman and Katharine Hepburn, who both spoke up for him, which is kind of neat. So in 1960, Bernard Gersten had started working with Joe Papp, who was trying to get the public theater together in the New York Shakespeare Festival. So this is when Shakespeare in the Park started, as did the higher level careers of people like John Guare, Sam Shepard, Meryl Streep, Liz Swados, and Michael Bennett, the guy who developed the chorus line at the public theater. And Gersten stayed with the public, helped build that up to a major off-Broadway force, of course. And then he fell out. I didn't know this either. He had a big argument with Joseph Papp over the musical Ballroom. Papp wanted to produce it, Gersten did not, or vice versa. Papp didn't want to produce it. Gersten thought that they should produce this new musical called Ballroom. Papp didn't want to do it. They split, and Gersten ended up producing Ballroom on Broadway, where it was kind of a minor flop. But late in the 1970s, Gersten went on to other things too. He helped Francis Ford Coppola build Zoetrope Studios, and then he worked on Radio City Music Hall for a while. And then came the real Gersten golden age, post-public, that we really know of. In the 1980s, he was hired as executive producer of Lincoln Center Theater. At that point, the artistic director was Gregory Mosher, and then Andre Bishop came in. And of course, Lincoln Center, man, it was falling into kind of nothingness. And then they got the Vivian Beaumont Theater going and the Mitzi Newhouse going again, with tons of shows over the years. They also oversaw the building of the Claire Toe Theater in much more recent times at Lincoln Center. And this was the thing that Wiki points out in Gersten's bio. Maybe the most important legacy of his wasn't any given show or even facility. It was he figured out a way that nonprofits could bring shows to Broadway without being totally beholden to Broadway producers and Broadway money, that they could make the numbers work out so that a public theater could bring a chorus line to Broadway. So that Second Stage, which now owns a theater on Broadway, could get a show to Broadway. I don't know if the economics now, where Broadway is so insanely expensive, still work like that. They might, or who knows what Broadway economics are going to be in 2021. But certainly it has been really important since the 70s of all the legacy that Bernard Gersten brought to Broadway and to the American theater. He was inducted into the Theater Hall of Fame in 2003. Should have been much earlier than that. He won a Tony for Lifetime Achievement in 2013. And I didn't even realize this. Gersten was married to Cora Cahan. She's still alive. She helped found the Joyce Theater, where they got a ton of down. Well, my wife Joyce is in the background there. And if that name sounds familiar, Cora Cahan, she is the one who runs the new 42nd Street. And like the new Victory Theater is housed there and everything. So major fella. Farewell to Bernie Gersten. Hey, by the way, I know I mentioned Broadway's not happening for a while. Okay, neither's off Broadway. But you still want to keep apprised, and you still want to know what's going to be going on the stages of New York. And that's why you're going to want and need a copy of Performing Arts Insider, the Bible of Broadway since 1944. This is the industry journal. This is the place that producers look if they want to know, what shows are going to be coming up in the months and years ahead that will be on and off Broadway? What shows in the middle of March were stalled and waiting still on the runway for theaters to open up? What shows are going to be off Broadway that might open up a lot sooner than Broadway will? You will find that in the monthly pages of Performing Arts Insider. Every issue has a guide to all the shows running on Broadway or previously opened or going to be opening, a map of the Broadway Theater District. You get a guide to all the Broadway theaters and their tenants. In other words, how many seats the theater has. Unfortunately, it's weird. Are you watching my visual here?
I'm in my account trying to.
This is really freaking me out because when I do this directly on Facebook,
oh, it's backward.
It looks normal. What I'm seeing is everything running backwards.
No, it looks fine. You're fine.
To you, it's normal, and Zoom
normal. Yeah, you're good.
Zoom backwardizes everything.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
Yeah, you could share screen. You could actually take that as a PDF.
Oh,
share
show
screen and show your audience, and then come back to yourself.
That's a cool.
You should do that next time. Yeah. It'd be cool.
But anyway, here's a guide.
I can show it.
Here's a guide to Broadway theaters. Here's a guide to all the press agents. These are the folks who do the PR for Broadway shows and let the critics in and figure out how to get promotion and publicity for all these shows. If you want to contact some actor or director or designer working on a Broadway or off-Broadway show, this is the page you go to.
What happens if they want to contact you to subscribe?
If you want to contact me to subscribe, that's easy. You just go to performingartsinsider.com, performingartsinsider.com. Now, this is a hard copy publication, even after all these years. However, because of COVID, for the past month or two, and probably 3, it has been and will be a digital PDF.
The video's divided in 2 because you restarted. I was like, why do you have 2 videos?
Oh, yeah. It's that's going to be a pain in the butt to put together.
Maybe you didn't because it's just live.
Oh, maybe. Well, I stopped.
No, I think 2 hours ago. Live.
No, actually, I never. Did I stop camera for Facebook? Maybe.
No, you didn't know. You just stopped recording.
No, I stopped the. I think I stopped the camera.
We'll yeah. You know why? Because it looked. Well, let's see.
We'll see. Don't. We'll see. Well, whatever it is, it is. I'll deal with it after the show's over.
It is.
But finishing up with looking at Performing Arts Insider. Look at this, a calendar.
A calendar. Oh my God.
Yeah. Good money for a calendar here of when shows or will be starting previews, reopening, closing, and we do that, and you can't find this anywhere else for off Broadway as well.
I can find it under the mantle.
What? And we have a guide to awards and special events, and of course, the heart of the magazine, which is all the shows on, off, and off Broadway, and comprehensive tons of information about them. Everything from all the people involved, to the producers, to the press people, to the theater that they're in, contacting them, the dates that they're running, show after show after show. PerformingArtsInsider.com. It has been and remains the Bible of Broadway. Well, I want to let you know some other folks that the theater community lost last week. So, for example, Terrence Frisbee. Well, I guess we were all thrown for a loop when Terrence Frisbee died this week on April 22nd at the age of 87. He was a British playwright who had just, I think, one play on Broadway, but it was a hit at the Music Box Theater in 1967. It was There's a Girl in My Soup. It was all about a celebrity chef and his girlfriend. Do you know who was in the movie version of There's a Girl in My Soup?
Barbara Streisand.
No, but you got the era right and kind of.
Dave Chappelle?
No, not Dave Chappelle.
Twiggy?
You're so in the right zone on that.
Doris Day.
No.
She always played a girl who was not gay.
Right, well, no, it was actually, the movie starred Peter Sellers and Goldie Hawn.
Oh, she's cute.
Yeah,
I like her.
back then she was real. Apparently, and I think there's even a little bit of a mini nude scene, which was amazing for like 1960, whatever, when that movie was. Well, I hope not Peter Sellers.
Me too.
Yeah, me too. Anyway, Peter, farewell to Terrence Frisbee, the author of There's a Girl in My Soup. I mean, I know you never heard of him, but not a lot of people get a hit Broadway play. He did.
But David, is there soup in your girl?
Oh. Well, if it's alphabet soup, I know what I want my letters spelling out.
If you don't know what your numbers would be.
Oh. Farewell also to Milton Schaefer. Now, he lived to the ripe old age of 99. And he died on April 12th. Oh, wow, he died a while ago, but I guess it was just released. This is a guy who worked with composer Bob Merrill and lyricist Bob Merrill. So they worked on Funny Girl together, and as well as the hit song How Much Is That Doggy in the Window, co-written by Milton Schaefer. He wrote songs for the Danny Kaye album, Mommy, Give Me a Dink of Water. If you ever listen to the Dr. Demento show, he would play that every once in a while. Danny Kaye did an album of children's songs. Milton Schaefer wrote them. In terms of shows that he worked on himself, I honestly, I don't remember if Milton Schaefer was involved in Funny Girl or not, or that was just a Bob Merrill thing. But he scored Bravo Giovanni, which nobody remembers anymore, but it was Tony nominated for Best Musical in 1962. He worked with Ira Levin on the musical Drat the Cat, which also nobody remembers, but you mentioned Barbara Streisand. I love how these things piece together. What Barbara Streisand hit came out of Drat the Cat.
I don't know.
He touched me. He put his hand in mine and then he touched me. It's the Harvey Weinstein song. And then, and what's kind of interesting is in Drat the Cat, the song is She Touched Me. And then Streisand reversed the gender, call it He Touched Me, and I had a big hit with it. But anyway, farewell to Milton Schaefer, who passed away at the age of 99. And finally, the Broadway part of the Daverhood says farewell to Peter H. Hunt, director and lighting designer, who died on April 26th at the age of 81. He happens to be actress Helen Hunt's uncle. But more to the point, back in 1958, he started doing work at Williamstown Festival. He became the artistic director of Williamstown Festival from 1989 through 95. On Broadway, he directed 1776. He won a Tony Award for doing that. He also directed the movie version of 1776. He directed on Broadway the flop musical Georgie, and he was Tony nominated for 1975's musical Good Time Charlie. And Han, speaking of degrees of separation, guess what musical Peter H. Hunt directed in 1997?
War?
It has close. It has personal significance for us.
Oh, Scarlet Pimpernel. God help us.
He directed the Scarlet Pimpernel, which is the show that my wife and I went to in the evening, and that night I proposed to her, because if she was going to sit through that music, which wasn't that bad actually, but if she
David, it was.
Anyway, and Peter H. Hunt on TV directed episodes of Heart to Heart, Baywatch, and Touched by an Angel. But I do thank the late Mr. Hunt, because if Joyce could sit through the Scarlet Pimpernel with me for 2.5 hours on Broadway, run back to our little apartment,
My little apartment.
Her little apartment. That's true.
That you kind of
I squatted him a bit.
Squatted,
yeah. I did a whole bunch of other things in the apartment too. Anyway, farewell to Peter H. Hunt and all the folks that we lost in the Daverhood, because ain't Broadway grand.
It's the famous gay white way, where the night is bright as day. Ain't Broadway grand?
It's not just a thoroughfare, it's a tingle in the air.
Woo-hoo!
Ain't Broadway grand?
It's excitement, it's romance, it's all fun and song and dance. This wonderland, you can be a millionaire quicker here than anywhere. Ain't Broadway grand?
It is indeed, ladies and gentlemen, it's grand to talk about Broadway, grand to do this program, this Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the stream. With me, Dave Lefkowitz, my darling and adorable wife, Joyce. We're watching Dave's Gone By. What? It is May 2nd, 2020. We're here from 9 until noon or thereabouts every Saturday doing the Daverhood thing. So yeah, we've still got more Daverhood things to do. We have our Today, Yesterday quiz to do. I don't know if Cynthia and Jeff are, it's hard to, yeah. But I'm thrilled that their son, who had COVID, is back to work, which is kind of neat. So
but he can get reinfected, so he's got to watch.
Well, yeah, I'm sure he has to wear a mask now every day at work. But Cynthia and Jeff are my cousins. They usually play the game with us.
If they don't play, it's hard on me because I have to then try.
Yeah, you've got to pick, try and come up with the answers yourself. So.
Are you recording? Make sure.
I think I am. Yeah. I'm hoping I am. So, but I can't necessarily see people's responses and stuff. So you'll just have to kind of go on your honor and play for yourselves when we do our Today, Yesterday quiz. Plus, we have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned for Palisade, Colorado. It's a 5-line poem.
Where the peaches come from? The Palisade peaches? They're well known.
I don't know. I mean, there's Palisade Park in New Jersey too, and there it could come from a whole bunch of different places. But before we get to all of that, I apologize for what I'm about to do. Every week on this program, we we do a wretched pun of destiny. This is where we tell a little story, and the upshot of it is a play on words that is just egregious, just stomach churning, and we're doing it just in time really for lunch, folks. So we did these for a couple of years, kind of gave up on it, and now we brought it back for a little while. We're doing some more wretched puns of destiny. And so brace yourselves, especially if you have polio, but that's not the joke. I don't even know what that means. Ladies and gentlemen, this week's wretched pun of destiny.
The day was gone by, wretched pun of destiny.
To broaden the repertory of the Boston Pops, conductor Arthur Fiedler starts booking jazz musicians as guest artists. One of the first is avant-garde legend Sun Ra. Fiedler invites the jazzman to his home to rehearse, and Ra brings along his youngest child, Seth, to play in the backyard with Fiedler's dog, a giant St. Bernard. Breaking for lunch, Fiedler comes out of the house and delights to see how much fun Seth is having with the dog. Eager to join in, Fiedler tells the boy, "Watch this." He climbs on the dog's back and rides him around the yard. Pretty soon, a neighbor hears the commotion looks over the fence at the scene, and sighs to his wife, "I wish Zero Mostel could see this." "Zero Mostel," says the wife. "Why would he care?" "Because," says the neighbor, "it's Sun Ra Sun Seth and Fiddler on the Roof."
We here at Dave's Gone By apologize for bringing you the wretched pun of destiny.
Come on, Sun Ra Sun Seth. That's good. That's good stuff, ain't it? You back me up, right, folks? Right, listeners? You're in my corner, right? You believe in me, don't you? Don't you? Well, you should, because we have more fun ahead. I know I promised that we're going to be doing our today, yesterday quiz. This is a trivia quiz, and it's based on the fact that today is May 2nd. Well, we've had a ton of prior May 2nds in history. I'm going to ask you questions about things that happened on this date over the past decades, even centuries. And then you'll see no fair Googling, no fair wikiing, no fair binging, if you will. This is our today, yesterday quiz. Yes, we're going to find the answers by yourselves. So yeah, some of the questions are harder, some are easier, but it's like anything else. It's like sometimes something you know should be on the tip of your tongue, and then you're like, I know that, and then it flies out of your head. Let's see how you do for this today, yesterday quiz for May 2nd, 2020. So we roll back the calendar all the way back to May 2nd, 1536. It was a bad day for this queen who could not give her king a male heir. So he accused her of treason. So on this date, he sent her to the Tower of London to await her trial. Name her. Lumpty-dumpty-doo. Here's our big expensive prop for this segment.
Is it Barbara Streisand?
Well, it's not Barbara Streisand. No, at some point, Barbara Streisand will be the right answer, but not for this particular question, which is taking place in 1536 on this date. Because she couldn't give the king a male heir, the king accused her of treason, put her on trial, and sent her to the Tower of London to wait for the court case. Please name this unlucky lady.
Is it Barbara Streisand?
There's no fair saying the same answer twice.
Is it Barbara Streisand?
Yes, it's Barbara Streisand. No. So I'm going to give you 1 or 2 more seconds because I know there's a time lag here. Are we getting any? Can you get any answers there? Can I see any answers? I don't think so.
No.
Because feel free to message me on Facebook and our Miracle of Long John's page or the regular
Should I go to
Dave
your
page.
page or my page? Let's see.
Oh, yeah, it won't be to your page. It'll probably be to mine. Yeah, no, nothing. Okay, so let me give the countdown. Honey, you want to take a stab at the answer-oo?
Barbara Streisand?
Yes! No. It was...
Oh, Elie Wiesel.
Not Elie Wiesel, who went up in the Tower of London on this date because her hubby...
Rufus Wainwright.
So close. The answer is Anne Boleyn.
Oh, I think she went bowling.
Yes, indeed. She won a Boleyn trophy. Next question in our today, yesterday quiz.
Hold on.
Hold on. What do you need? Gesundheit. Oh, Gesundheit. Everybody, move 6 feet away from your screen.
That's right.
1865 is the year.
That was my birth year.
Andrew Johnson is the president. He put a $100,000 bounty on this fugitive's head.
Oh, Lin-Manuel Noriega.
No. Who was public enemy numero uno?
Public enemy?
No.
Don't believe the hype.
President
Don't
Johnson,
believe the hype.
not LBJ, but President Andrew J. put a $100,000 bounty on this.
Como.
Now, which one? Chris or Andrew or Mario?
Both, the whole family.
Who was fugitive number one? And this is kind of a big clue. The year 1865. Whom were they looking for with that kind of bounty? Or even Scott or Sharman? You want to take a stab, babe?
I don't know. That's a hard one.
That's what she said. The answer is the president of the Confederacy, whose name was?
Andrew Jackson.
No, Jefferson Davis.
Jefferson Davis.
Yeah, they put a big bounty on his head.
Jefferson Davis.
He was ultimately imprisoned.
Andrew Jackson.
But then pardoned afterwards. So yeah, that happened on this date. They were looking for the Confederate president. Let's move it up 20 more years to 1885, the year you were actually born, hon. The very first.
Yes, ma'am.
The very first issue of this magazine was published. It cost.
Performing Arts Insider.
If only, man.
No?
Nope. This is actually huge. It cost $2.50.
That's a lot of money.
In 1885, it was a ransom. The front cover billed itself as a family journal conducted in the interests of the higher life of the household. And it became known for becoming a watchdog regarding the adulteration of food sold to consumers.
Oh, I know who that is.
Name the publication.
Yeah.
Give it a moment.
Oh, I don't know it. I thought I did.
Maybe you do. But I'll read the question again. First issue of the magazine, published May 2nd, 1885, billed as a family journal, conducted in the interests of the higher life of the household, and really got itself known for being a watchdog of what companies were putting into food. They were kind of like the H.J. Heinz.
I was thinking
in
of the
print.
FDA, but it's not the FDA.
No, it's a magazine. A magazine that started in 1885. Gonna give you another moment. I'll give you a hint. When I used to work for McCall's Working Woman, and I worked on McCall's magazine in the advertising support department, this was one of our enemies. This was one of these seven sisters, as we called them, that were our competition. You want to take a stab?
I want to buy a painting for my old roommate.
That has nothing to do with anything I'm here.
I'm
Literally
looking
nothing.
on Facebook, yes.
What?
Give it to me.
No, I will later, but no, the no, but take a stab. It's like one of the Seven Sisters publications for the household.
Good housekeeping.
Boom! You got it. I give you my seal of approval. Little seal joke there. Yep, found it all the way back in there. The thing that amazes me is that it was $2.50 for the first issue. I'm like, jeepers, creeps. I don't think books cost that much back then. Anyway, we now move up into the past century. Not one, but 2 years. Okay, we moved to 1903 and 1904, both on May 2nd. Judge Himes and Elwood were both winners of this contest.
Oh.
Can you name it? Okay, so 1903, May 2nd, 1904. Judge Himes and Elwood were the successive winners of this contest. Can you name it?
I have no idea.
I'll give you a hint. Can you name what they were?
Lesbian lovers.
No, because I would have been there to watch if that were true.
Were they Joyce Carol Oates?
No. However, Oates is a hint. Kind of.
Was it Charlie Gross?
No.
Was it Sephora?
No. You're just surfing the internet and grabbing any word that comes to your mind here.
There's a little dachshund talking.
Oh.
Look at this. He's like, remember Marie, but Ray was cuter. He's talking about donuts. See, look at him.
Oh, he's cute.
Yeah,
he
he's
is cute.
cute.
Anyway, on to what we're actually doing here. 1903, 1904. Okay. In 1903, Judge Himes won. In 1904, Elwood won. This contest held on May 2nd.
Oh, May Day.
Day.
Mother's Day honky tonk.
Nope. Nope. It's a Southern contest.
Oh, that Tennessee pun thing you were going to do with our friend.
No. You can wear a hat or
Oh, Kentucky Derby?
Judge Himes and Elwood were horses.
I didn't know that. What am I supposed to know what a horse is? I don't follow no equestrian horses.
A horse is a horse, of course.
I don't follow no horses.
We're doing our yesterday quiz. I do miss Cynthia and Jeff, though. I miss having to play against them. Here we go.
They were the brain trust.
1909 is the year. May 2nd, the day. On this date, a legendary baseball player nicknamed the Flying Dutchman stole all 4 bases in the first inning in a game against the Chicago Cubs. Name this shortstop.
I have no idea.
Who, after his playing days were over, went on to coach the Pittsburgh Pirates for 39 years. Who are we talking about? Any real old-timey baseball fans here? I'll say it again. Legendary baseball player whose nickname was the Flying Dutchman. And he actually stole every single base in an inning in a game against the Chicago Cubs on this date in 1909. And then after he finished playing mostly with the Pirates, he coached the Pirates for 40 years, just about. And I'll give you a hint here. He's especially of interest to baseball card collectors. Can you name the Flying Dutchman, the Fliegende Holländer de Baseball?
I don't even know what that means.
Okay, we're going to give it a little countdown. I mention this, or that hint, because the rarest and most prized just about of all baseball cards in collectordom is that of
Hank Aaron?
Great answer.
That's the only name I know.
But like 40 years before him.
I don't know that.
Honus Wagner.
Who's that?
Honus Wagner. It was a shortstop, Flying Dutchman.
Who was Honus Wagner?
Very speedy fella. And then he was a coach for 40 years on the same team. And he's just, it is, for some reason, that is the card. It's like the ultimate. You get like $3 million if you have a Honus Wagner in good condition, which doesn't even exist.
Is that real?
What? And this is Honus, not anus.
I'm wondering why the dog is so quiet. I fed him some. I'm going to go feed him again.
Okay. Our next question in our yesterday quiz.
I'll run.
May 2nd, 1929. She was just 14 years old on this date when this legendary singer and her mother were both arrested for prostitution. Can you name her? Okay, 1929, that's kind of a clue of the time period. 14 years old when she was in a brothel with her mom and they were both arrested.
I know what
Can you name who it is?
Mae West.
No, that's not a bad answer though, but no.
What's the one that used to work for Trump, the little blonde girl?
Ooh.
Blonde woman who used to work for Trump, Kellyanne Conway or whatever.
Oh God, no, she was Kellyanne Conway. I don't think ever worked in a brothel with her mom.
What happened to her?
No, they still interview her, and she still spouts off idiocies.
I thought he fired her.
Well, I think literally, quite what's funny is there have been 5 press secretaries after her. Remember Shrub? There was the guy, and then she came on, and then they had the fat Oompa Loompa woman, and then they had. It was like Trump changed his press secretaries every 3 months.
I know.
But well, I'll give the question one more time. In 1929, she was just 14 years old on this date when she and her mom were arrested.
Shirley Temple?
Her mom was kind of running the brothel. She was already being pimped out and used as a whore. Who are we talking about?
Used as a whore?
Yeah. And the answer is it's not a Jewish holiday. It's a
Arbor Day?
no. It's a Billie holiday.
Oh.
Yeah, tough life that woman had.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, this was the date she was born. I didn't realize this. Her real name was Eleanora Fagan.
Wow.
She spent some months in prison, and then she was brought to a workhouse. So that was the early life of Lady. No wonder she was singing the blues all the time. All right, moving on to the next question. We go up to 19. Now this one you will absolutely know. I guarantee you. Just don't say it out loud until you're cued.
Okay.
And you are very cued. Here we go. 1932. On this date, author Pearl S. Buck won the Pulitzer Prize for this novel, which begins with the sentence, "It was Wang Lung's marriage day." Can you name the book?
Oh, Ho Chi Minh. It's our, I don't know it.
Okay, I'll ask the question. What happened to my xylophone?
It's
here it is.
It's on there.
I got it. Okay. 1932. The Pulitzer Prize was awarded to Pearl S. Buck for her novel, which begins with the sentence, "It was Wang Lung's marriage day." Can you name the book? You want to give it a go?
I have no idea.
No, I know that sounds kind of racially Asian, but don't forget we have with us, especially in the neighborhood. And to specifically answer this question is one of the most magnificent things I have ever seen in my life. You know, if you watch the program, that I collect potatoes, and I do love them quite a bit. And then, I don't know why, I don't know how, but I found on the interwebs from Pier 1 Imports.
It's not their finest hour, I'm sure.
How they made this. This is a cushion, or a pillow, if you will, made by Pier 1 Imports. I found this, I think, on eBay. It wasn't directly from them. It was already a resale. This is real. This is not apparently a joke. It's a pillow. This is the back of the pillow, right? Very nice. Yeah. This is the front of the pillow. Of course I bought this. Of course, and what we've done is we've named her Finga Ling because she's there. She's basically the Asian whore that we have brought in to service all our potatoes. Yeah, I'm a good. So I don't know why she speaks Italian that way, but Finga Ling is going to give me, I actually own this. This is one of my absolute cherished possessions. I don't think
You've taken it from Colorado.
I have a friend who, part of the collecting things that they would get in New Hampshire were these bowls and dishes with black people's faces on it, because it was the racist thing to do in the teens and 20s and 30s, when an oatmeal bowl would have an incredibly big smiling Negro face. This is yellow face to the extreme, ladies and gentlemen, and it's magnificent. So, Finga Ling, would you like to give the answer as to the name of the book that Pearl S. Buck won the Pulitzer Prize for on this date? Or, honey, do you want to take a guess first?
No.
The answer is, I usually do this for fortune cookie. All right. Answer is The Good Earth. Thank you, Fingerling. No
well.
problem. Now you sucky. No, shut. Fingerling, shame on you. Terrible. Anyway, why do I do that? The Good Earth, ladies and gentlemen, that was awarded on this date. All right, speaking of creative endeavors, we have two more questions in our Yesterday quiz on Dave's Gone By. 1936, debuting in Moscow tonight, was this symphonic fairy tale for children?
They have a new thing on Facebook now. You can click, when I send a message to someone,
yeah,
you can click and say, always know when Dave's Gone By goes live.
Oh, yeah, I would love that. Yeah.
Clicked on that, yeah.
Anyway, debuting in Moscow back in 1936 on May 2nd, on this date, was this symphonic fairy tale for children with music and narration written by Sergei Prokofiev. Can you name it? I will give you sort of a hint here.
Super Freak.
Good answer.
Super Freak?
So the Moscow debut of the Symphonic Fairy Tale for Children was held tonight. Music and narration by Sergei Prokofiev. What was the name of it?
Who's afraid of the big bad wolf? The big bad wolf. The big
Very
bad
good.
Wolf.
But what was it actually called?
I don't know. Who's afraid of the big bad wolf? The big bad wolf. The big
No,
bad
that's Disney.
I don't know.
No, you have it. You got it. You do.
I don't have it.
It's called,
Deflator Wolf.
no, it's not the Deflator Wolf. No. It is Peter and the Wolf. Apparently it debuted and it didn't really go over that well because the narrator wasn't feeling too well. And then they did it again and it became an instant legend and standard and introduction of children into the world of the symphony orchestra. Okay, we've got one last question here for our Today Yesterday quiz. Are you ready? I think you are. 1938.
Wow.
Speaking of children's rhymes, recorded today with the Chick Webb Orchestra was A Tisket, a Tasket, a jazzy update on a nursery rhyme.
A tisket, a tasket, I've lost my yellow basket.
That became a signature tune for this vocalist. Can you name the singer? I think you know this one.
No, I know the person, but I can't think of the name. I just get a casket, I lost my yellow basket.
So yeah, so everybody knows the song in their head. It's A Tisket, a Tasket, but the most famous version of it, the version that made it a huge hit that we all know, was recorded on this date, May 2nd, 1938, by Chick Webb and his orchestra. But the lead singer, the person who sang it, and maybe even did, here's a hint, a little bit of scatting over it, was, do you want to give it a go?
B.B. King.
Nope.
B.B. King.
No, it wasn't B.B. King.
B.B. King?
Oh, I thought you were going to guess Barbra Streisand, but no.
Oh, Barbra Streisand.
No, not Barbra Streisand. Does Gerald fit Ella?
Oh, Ella Fitzgerald, yeah.
That's right. That was her signature and remained really one of her big signature songs, A Tisket, a Tasket. And ladies and gentlemen, how did you do? We had about, I think, 9 or 10 questions in there. Hope you had fun. Hope you enjoyed our yesterday quiz on Dave's Gone By. By the way, it's 12:03 in the afternoon. So we're going to be finishing up the show in just a few minutes. Have a little bit more to do. I want to thank you so much for watching. Got to thank again, Don Perl for being part of the show. What a marvelous conversation that Rabbi Sol Solomon had with him. Got to thank also our sponsors, Hewlett Minuteman Press, the Copy Kings.
I think we should go to Oregon.
Why? I would love to go to Oregon.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Or if nothing else, I'd rather have a larger Oregon. I don't know what that means, but
With your egg cream.
It's true. Well, anyway, what was this? Oh, Hewlett Minuteman Press has been the Minuteman franchise in Hewlett since the mid-1970s. It's owned and operated by the Torong family. They do printing, copying, binding. They'll do wedding invitations, business cards. They can put your logo, your company's design on virtually anything, any item of clothing, any sporting good, any banner or balloon. Hewlett Minuteman Press can do it for you. And if you tell them Dave sent you, you get 10% off any job, big or small. So give them a call, 516-569-5577, area code 516-569-5577. They're not open on weekends now. In fact, they're limited operational hours during the whole COVID thing. They'll probably start reopening full-time in a week or 2 or 3. But for now, they're still operating because they're an essential service. They're bringing things to the post office. They deal with UPS and FedEx and stuff like that. They do a whole bunch. Hewlett Minuteman Press, they are the Copy kings. Well, I do feel like king of the world when I do this program, Dave's Gone By. It's 12:05. Remember to find out more information about the show by going to davesgoneby.com. That's DAVESGONEBY.com. We also...
I think you're on one stream because it says 3 hours.
Oh, good. That's great.
When did you start? 9 to 10, 10 to 11?
It's exactly 3 hours. So maybe we lose the Facebook stream, which would be great. What else? Well, and yes, a reminder that you can scroll down on our Facebook page and also the Miracle of Long Tongues page and watch our shows from the last 2.5, 3 years. But I mean, all the shows are at davesgoneby.com. That should be your first stop. But if you want to watch stuff on Facebook, the last couple of years are there. And if you want to watch the last 5 years of show and support archive.org, you can find our page on that service. And also, if you are a podcast person, you don't really need the visual, but you want to go do stuff, you want to be, I don't know, on your exercycle, you want to be doing other things and just listening while you're cooking, perhaps, then go to castbox.fm and find our page there too. Castbox.fm. This is a place where it's only podcasts, only audio, and Dave's Gone By has loaded the last 4 or so years of shows audio only at castbox.fm. So bunches and bunches of ways to find this program, Dave's Gone By, on the interwebs. Well, hon, are we done? Is there anything we want to talk about? Anything we want to do?
Look on your list because you switched out of order with the interviews.
Yeah. Let's see. I did today, yesterday. Greeley Crimes Inside Broadway. Did we do our Wretched pun about the Boston Pops and that hilarious song about hilarious joke about Sun Seth? No.
Not again.
No. Well, and Rabbi Saul Solomon's Rabbinical Reflection. We did that. We talked about COVID. Talking about the Tiger King. Anything else that we want to? Oh, I guess we're just. Oh, you thought I'd forget? I didn't forget. Ladies and gentlemen, every week we do a Wretched pun. No, not the Wretched pun. I screwed that up. We do our Colorado Limerick of the Damned, ladies and gentlemen. This is a 5-line poem that is bawdy and crude and vulgar and wonderful. I started doing them a few years ago when I was living in Colorado and just decided, hey, let's do a poem for all these different towns, big and small, in Colorado, just for the hell of it. And they are rather hellish themselves. We call them Colorado Limericks of the Damned. And today we go to Palisade, Colorado.
A limerick is a comic verse of 5 lines in which lines 1, 2, and 5 will end with words that rhyme. And likewise, verses 3 and 4 also end with words that rhyme. So this is a limerick. Rocky Mountain, Colorado.
Yes, Colorado we go to. And this case, one of the great things about doing the Colorado Limerick of the Damned is it's half the places I've written poems about I'd never heard of, never been to. There's just so many little places in Colorado. For example, let's talk about Palisade, Colorado. Palisade is a statutory town that's part of Grand Junction. It's over in Midwestern Colorado. Population about 2,600 people, so it's not that tiny. Known, like every place in Colorado, it's gorgeous. It's known for vineyards, peach orchards, and tons of sunshine, lots of biking, and unlike some of the higher elevations, it gets only a foot of snow per year. So it's one of these lower level places, and a wonderful place for tourists and outdoorsy folks once things return to normal. Well, there's nothing normal about our Colorado Limericks of the Damned. So this one is all about Palisade, Colorado. If you're ever in Palisade, be warned if you go to get laid. The girls aren't nice, and they're crawling with lice, so carry a big can of Raid.
Oh, that's disgusting, lice.
And that is our Wretched Pun of Destiny, ladies and gentlemen, here for this side. Oh, I forgot to play the Wretched Pun of Destiny music, which goes something like this.
We here at Dave's Gone By apologize for bringing you the wretched pun of destiny.
Honestly, we're deeply, deeply ashamed and sorry that we do that every week. I know.
That one wasn't as offensive. It was just disgusting for lice.
Yes.
Some of them were vulgar, and that was the better one.
That was comparatively less unbelievably offensive and disgusting. I guess I'm losing my touch, folks. Well, you tell me. Here. Let me touch you. Let's see how I'm. Wow, what a weird looking thing that is. That's my finger. Do you see that?
Oh my God.
Whoa.
Don't do it.
It's like amoeba porn.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my God.
Isn't that horrifying?
You gotta like wash your nails. They're filthy.
I just showered like 3 weeks ago. Anyway.
Show them your wedding ring.
Oh, okay. Here we go. Look at that. Look at that. Has not really left this finger except when I sprained myself for 20 something years. Has been on what?
How many?
22 and a half years, married to my darling and adorable wife, Joyce, who joins me in the Daverhood pretty much every week. Love her to pieces. Thank you again to Donato, Don, David, whatever you want to call him, Don Perl. Much continued help.
Call him Don, like Don.
Don, yeah. Don Perl. Donna Perla.
Don, like Don Elena.
Very, very nice. And thank you also to Pat for popping on for a moment or two and saying hi.
Yeah, how lovely. Who knew, right?
Don, yeah.
You go.
You go
for it, dude.
Well, he's the sweetest guy imaginable. So
he's a lovely man,
yeah.
But still.
Except when he throws books at people.
Who?
When he was doing those experiments back in the day, and he was in the classroom throwing, it was like, here, Jew, get in the corner. I'm like, whoa, okay. Anyway, thank you, Don, and thank you to Rabbi Saul Solomon. Remember to check out his website, shalomdammit.com. What else? Thank you to all of you who watch and tune in and play along and enjoy and share news about this show to all of your friends. I mean, people can watch this just as easily as they can tune into all the different stuff that's on the interwebs. You can tune into this like you could to the Sondheim Birthday Bash, to Hulu or YouTube or Netflix or Amazon Prime. Tell your friends this is a fun way to spend a Saturday morning with me, Dave Lefkowitz, and my wife, Joyce, in the Daverhood every week. Well, it just remains for me to just wish you continued health, to heed the advice of Rabbi Saul Solomon, and make sure that you do practice, at least for a week or 2 or 3 longer, decent social isolation so that we can keep the curve going down. Stay healthy, stay well, enjoy May and Gone By.
Days gone by. Days gone by.